Across time and every corner of the earth, before towering stone structures rose as testaments to devotion, humanity looked to the natural world for the divine. Towering mountains, ancient rivers, echoing caves, these were not just landscapes but sacred spaces, places where the veil between this world and the spiritual felt thin. Imagine the reverence felt standing before a waterfall, so vast it seemed to speak with the voice of a god, or entering a network of caves that felt like the very womb of the earth. Why did ancient cultures across continents and eras share this profound connection to nature's grandeur? What secrets lay hidden within these natural sanctuaries that inspired such awe and worship? This journey will take us to 50 such natural wonders, exploring the stories, beliefs, and mysteries that still resonate today. Get ready to discover the sacred landscapes that shaped civilizations and held the keys to their deepest spiritual connection. Our first stop on this incredible journey is Mount Kailash in Tibet, a peak that holds such immense spiritual power it's considered sacred by not one, but four major religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Burn. This isn't just any mountain. Its distinctive pyramid-like shape and snow-capped summit stand out dramatically from the surrounding plateau, a natural formation that seems almost purposeful in its grandeur. For thousands of years, pilgrims from these different faiths have undertaken incredibly challenging journeys, walking ancient routes around the mountain in a clockwise direction for Hindus and Buddhists and counterclockwise for followers of Burn. These are not easy treks. They are physically demanding acts of devotion, symbolizing a spiritual path. Hindus believe Mount Kailash is the abode of Lord Shiva, the destroyer and restorer of worlds, a place of ultimate tranquility and power. For Buddhists, it's the center of the universe, home to the Buddha Demchok. Jains see it as the site where their first spiritual leader attained enlightenment, and Burn followers consider it the sacred center of their cosmos. The sheer inaccessibility of Mount Kailash, its remote location and brutal weather, likely only amplified its mystique and sanctity in ancient times. This is a mountain that has never been successfully climbed, a testament to the profound respect it commands. Attempts to scale its slopes have been met with strong opposition, precisely because its sacred status is so deeply ingrained in the hearts and minds of its devotees. The immense scale and the inherent difficulty of reaching its base underscore the mountain's power and the deep faith of those who journey there. Moving from the towering Himalayas, we journey now to the vast Australian outback to encounter another awe-inspiring natural wonder steeped in ancient reverence: Uluru, also known as Ayers Rock. This isn't just a massive sandstone monolith. It is the pulsating heart of the spiritual world for the Anangu people, the traditional custodians of this land for tens of thousands of years. Its sheer scale is breathtaking, rising dramatically from the flat desert floor. What's truly mesmerizing is how the rock seems alive, its colors shifting dramatically throughout the day, from deep ochre reds at sunrise and sunset to shades of brown and purple under the midday sun. This ever-changing appearance is more than just a visual spectacle. It's intimately connected to the Anangu's spiritual beliefs. The stories woven into the very fabric of Uluru are part of the Tijukurpa, often translated as the dreaming. These are not just myths, they are the foundation of Anangu society, law, and connection to the land. Every indentation, every fissure, every cave around Uluru tells a story of ancestral beings who shaped the landscape during the creation period. For instance, stories of the Mala people, represented by the rock formations on the northern side, speak of their journey and conflict. The Mutitjulu waterhole at the base holds stories of the Kunia python woman and Luru poisonous snake man and a significant battle. These narratives are passed down through generations through songs, dances, and art, ensuring the profound connection to the land remains vibrant. Understanding Uluru means respecting the cultural protocols established by the Anangu. For decades, tourists climbed the rock, a practice that caused great distress to the Anangu, as Uluru is a sacred site, a place of profound spiritual significance, not a tourist attraction to be conquered. In a powerful demonstration of respect and recognizing the deep spiritual ties to this land, climbing Uluru was officially stopped in 2019. This decision marked a significant step in acknowledging the Anangu's wishes and their responsibility to care for their ancestral lands. It underscores a fundamental concept in Indigenous Australian culture. The land is not separate from people. It is integral to their identity, their spirituality, and their very existence. From the ancient living rock of Uluru, we travel to the iconic landscape of Giza in Egypt, a place instantly recognizable by its pyramids and the enigmatic Great Sphinx. Now, you might think of the Sphinx as a purely man-made sculpture, a colossal statue carved entirely by human hands, but here lies one of its enduring mysteries. The Great Sphinx wasn't simply built block by block. It was primarily carved from a massive, pre-existing natural limestone outcrop right there on the Giza Plateau. Imagine looking out across that landscape thousands of years ago before the detailed carving began. You would have seen this enormous hump of rock rising from the desert floor. How did the ancient Egyptians see this huge natural feature? Did its shape suggest something to them before they ever lifted a chisel? Some theories propose that the natural formation might have vaguely resembled a crouching lion or another powerful animal, sparking the initial idea for the Sphinx's form. Consider the sheer scale of this natural rock. It's 73 meters long and 20 meters high just in its raw state. That's a significant feature in the landscape, demanding attention. It's possible this natural prominence was already considered a special spot, perhaps believed to be connected to earth gods or protective spirits, long before the pharaohs ordered its transformation. The act of sculpting this natural rock into a magnificent creature with the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh would have been a profound statement, merging the power of the natural world with the divine authority of the ruler. The debates about the Sphinx's age and its original purpose are still very much alive among archaeologists and historians. Was it built by the pharaoh Khafre, as is widely believed, around 4,500 years ago? Or could it be even older, predating the pyramids themselves, with its origins tied to even earlier beliefs connected to the natural landscape? The erosion patterns on the Sphinx, particularly on its body, have led some researchers to suggest it could be much older, perhaps shaped by rainfall from a wetter period in Egypt's distant past, long before the desert we know today. This ongoing debate only adds layers to the mystery, hinting at a deeper connection between this monumental sculpture, the natural world it emerged from, and the ancient Egyptians' understanding of the cosmos and their place within it. Following the mysteries of the Sphinx and the sacred depths of Uluru, our journey brings us to a river that has flowed through the heart of spiritual history for thousands of years, the Jordan River in the Middle East. This isn't the largest river in the world, nor is it the deepest, but its significance is truly immense, holding a sacred place in the hearts of billions across three major Abrahamic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. For ancient peoples living in an often arid and challenging landscape, any source of fresh water was a lifeline, a precious resource that meant the difference between survival and hardship. A reliable river like the Jordan would have been seen not just as a geographical feature, but as a direct gift, a divine blessing from the heavens themselves. Its waters nourished the land, allowing settlements to flourish and civilizations to develop. Imagine living in this parched region thousands of years ago and encountering this flowing water. It would have felt miraculous. In Judaism, the Jordan River marks a pivotal moment in their history, the miraculous crossing of the Israelites into the Promised Land after their long exodus from Egypt. This act, described in the book of Joshua, isn't just a military maneuver. It is a profound act of faith where the waters are said to have parted, allowing the people to cross on dry ground. This event cemented the Jordan's status as a boundary between the 40 years in the wilderness and the fulfillment of God's promise, a symbol of entering a new era. The river became synonymous with transition, with hope, and with divine intervention. It was far more than just a watercourse. It was a stage upon which the unfolding drama of their faith played out. For Christians, the Jordan River is perhaps most famously associated with the baptism of Jesus by John the Baptist. This event is seen as the beginning of Jesus' public ministry, a moment of profound spiritual significance where the Holy Spirit is said to have descended upon him. Pilgrims for centuries have traveled to sites along the Jordan, seeking to experience a connection to this sacred act, often undergoing baptisms themselves in its waters. The river became a symbol of cleansing, of spiritual rebirth, and a physical link to the very beginnings of Christianity. Think about the power of that moment standing in the same waters where such a transformative event is believed to have occurred. While not holding the same central narrative role as in Judaism and Christianity, the Jordan River is also revered in Islam. It is mentioned in Islamic texts and is seen as part of the Holy Land, connected to prophets recognized in Islam, including Moses and Jesus. The reverence for these figures naturally extends to the places associated with them, including this historically significant waterway. Throughout history, the river has been a destination for pilgrims from all three faiths, each group coming with their own traditions and prayers, seeking a connection to the divine through its flowing waters. Even today, despite regional complexities and reduced water flow, pilgrimage sites along the Jordan remain active, drawing people from around the world seeking spiritual renewal and a tangible link to their faith's history. The enduring power of the Jordan River lies not just in its physical presence, but in the layers of sacred history and meaning that have accumulated around it over millennia, making it a truly living natural wonder. From the life-giving flow of the Jordan River, we ascend now to the dramatic heights of ancient Greece, to a place synonymous with prophecy and divine pronouncements, Delphi. While the Temple of Apollo is the centerpiece of this iconic archaeological site, its power was intrinsically linked to its breathtaking natural setting on the lower slopes of Mount Parnassus. Mount Parnassus wasn't just a mountain, it was, in Greek mythology, a sacred dwelling place for the god Apollo, the deity of music, poetry, and prophecy, and the divine home of the Muses, goddesses of inspiration. Imagine the ancient Greeks looking up at this imposing peak, feeling a direct connection to the divine forces that governed their lives, a place where gods and mortals seemed closer. The landscape itself at Delphi is incredibly dramatic: steep slopes, deep ravines, and a panoramic view that stretches to the Gulf of Corinth. This impressive topography wouldn't have been seen as mere scenery. To the ancient mind, it was part of the divine presence, shaping the very atmosphere of the sanctuary. One of the most intriguing aspects of Delphi relates to the natural features beneath the temple. Ancient accounts speak of fissures or cracks in the earth from which vapors or gases arose, believed to be the divine breath of Apollo. It was in this location that the Pythia, the priestess of Apollo and the oracle, would sit, inhaling these vapors before delivering her cryptic prophecies. For centuries, modern science debated this, with many dismissing the idea of intoxicating gases as myth. However, geological studies in recent decades have provided intriguing evidence. Research has found fault lines running directly under the ancient temple site and detected traces of hydrocarbon gases, including ethylene, which in ancient times might have been released in small quantities and could potentially have caused a lightheaded or trance-like state in the Pythia. This doesn't diminish the spiritual significance. Rather, it suggests a powerful interaction between the natural geology of the site and the religious practices held there. Seeking advice from the oracle at Delphi was a monumental undertaking in the ancient Greek world. City-states, rulers, and individuals would travel great distances, bringing offerings and seeking guidance on everything from founding colonies and waging wars to personal matters. The pronouncements of the Pythia, often ambiguous and open to interpretation, held immense sway and could shape the course of empires. This wasn't just superstition. It was a deeply ingrained part of their decision-making process, demonstrating the profound belief that divine will could be discerned through this sacred natural place and its conduit, the Pythia. The aura of mystery, the stunning natural beauty, and the belief in a direct line to the divine through the earth's breath made Delphi one of the most powerful and revered sites in the entire ancient world. From the stone-carved pronouncements of Delphi and the life-giving flow of the Jordan, we now plunge into the verdant heart of South America, into the embrace of the Amazon River. This isn't just a river, it is a colossal, pulsating artery that sustains the largest rainforest on Earth and is deeply sacred to the countless indigenous cultures living along its banks and tributaries. For the people of the Amazon basin, the river is not merely a source of water or a means of travel. It is a living entity, often perceived as a powerful serpent god, a watchful ancestor, or the dwelling place of potent spirits. Think about the sheer scale of the Amazon, its immense length, its hundreds of tributaries winding like veins through the forest, the incredible volume of water it carries. It's a force of nature on a scale that truly inspires awe, and it's easy to understand why ancient peoples would attribute divine power to something so vast, so vital, and at times so unpredictable. These belief systems are deeply interwoven with the practical reality of life in the Amazon. The river dictates everything: where people settle, how they travel, what they eat. It provides fish, essential for sustenance, and its currents are the highways connecting communities scattered across the vast region. Canoe travel on the Amazon is not just transportation, it's navigating a sacred path. The spirits of the river, of the animals within it, and of the surrounding forest are constantly acknowledged, respected, and appeased through rituals and prayers. It's a reciprocal relationship. The river provides, and in turn, it must be honored. Central to many Amazonian belief systems is the role of the shaman. These spiritual leaders act as intermediaries between the human world and the spirit world, and their connection to the river and its spirits is fundamental. Shamans often undertake journeys in altered states of consciousness, guided by plant medicines like ayahuasca, to communicate with river spirits for healing, to understand illnesses, to seek guidance for the community, or to ensure successful hunts and harvests. The river's creatures, the jaguar, the dolphin, the anaconda, are often seen as powerful spirit helpers or manifestations of river deities. The anaconda, in particular, with its immense power and size, is often revered as a primordial being, a creator force associated with the river itself. Living alongside such immense biodiversity, in a place where life and death play out on a grand scale daily, fosters a profound respect and sometimes a healthy fear of the natural world. The power of the Amazon's floods, the hidden dangers lurking beneath its surface, and the sheer abundance of life all contribute to the reverence felt for the river and its surrounding ecosystem. It is a place where the spiritual and the physical are inseparable, where the health of the environment is directly linked to the well-being of the people and the spirits who share this extraordinary natural wonder. Leaving the rich biodiversity of the Amazon, we journey across the Pacific to an island nation where a single, majestic peak dominates the skyline and the spiritual imagination, Mount Fuji in Japan. Look at its iconic shape, a perfectly symmetrical cone, often capped with snow, rising above the clouds. For centuries, this mountain hasn't just been a beautiful landscape feature. It's been a powerful symbol and a deeply sacred site in both Shintoism and Japanese Buddhism. Think about the visual impact of this solitary, imposing volcano. It's a natural design that seems almost deliberate in its elegance and grandeur. In Shinto, the indigenous religion of Japan, Mount Fuji is considered the dwelling place of the kami, the divine spirits that inhabit the natural world. Specifically, it's associated with Konohana Sakuya Hime, the goddess of cherry blossoms and volcanoes, a figure representing both delicate beauty and immense power. To the ancient Japanese, the mountain wasn't just a rock formation. It was alive, inhabited by powerful beings who influenced their lives and the world around them. Japanese Buddhism also absorbed and adapted this reverence for Fuji. The mountain became a site for ascetic practices and pilgrimages, particularly for followers of Shugendo, a syncretic religion that combines elements of Buddhism, Shinto, and animism, emphasizing rigorous spiritual and physical training in sacred mountain environments. Climbing Fuji became a spiritual journey, a way to purify oneself and connect with the divine presence believed to reside at the summit. For generations, pilgrims, dressed in traditional white climbing robes, have ascended the mountain, often pausing at shrines along the route, chanting sutras and leaving offerings. The very act of the strenuous climb is seen as a metaphor for the spiritual path, overcoming physical challenges to reach enlightenment or a closer connection to the sacred. The mountain's status as a volcano, powerful and potentially destructive, undoubtedly contributed to its reverence. Witnessing the raw force of nature, the earth trembling, the potential for eruption, this inspires both awe and a desire to appease the powerful forces at play. While Fuji's last eruption was in 1707, its volcanic nature was a constant reminder of the Earth's power and the capricious nature of the spirits that controlled it. Its beauty, captured in countless paintings, poems, and woodblock prints throughout Japanese history, think of Hokusai's famous series, 36 Views of Mount Fuji, further solidified its place in the national consciousness as a symbol of Japan itself, a sacred and enduring presence in the landscape and the soul of the nation. Leaving the majestic heights of Mount Fuji, we now descend into the vibrant heart of India to meet a river whose name is synonymous with life, purity, and devotion, the Ganges, or as it is lovingly called by millions, Ganga Ma, Mother Ganges. This isn't just a waterway, it is the most sacred river in Hinduism, a divine entity believed to embody the goddess Ganga herself. For over 1 billion Hindus worldwide, the Ganges holds a place of paramount importance, a living goddess whose waters possess extraordinary spiritual power. Imagine the deep faith that leads people from all walks of life to journey to this river, believing that merely touching its waters or taking a dip can wash away a lifetime of sins and lead to moksha or salvation. This belief in the purifying power of the Ganges is central to Hindu practice. The banks of the Ganges are a constant theater of devotion, alive with rituals and ceremonies every single day. From the early dawn prayers and elaborate aarti ceremonies, where lamps are floated on the water as offerings, to simple acts of collecting holy water to take home, the river is the focal point of spiritual life. One of the most profound and visible practices is cremation along its banks, particularly in cities like Varanasi. The belief here is that being cremated near the Ganges and having one's ashes scattered into its waters ensures liberation from the cycle of rebirth, a direct path to the divine. While this practice might seem stark to some, it is viewed by devout Hindus as a final, sacred act of returning to the source. The mythological origins of the Ganges are as rich and complex as the faith itself. One prominent story involves the ascetic king Bhajaratha, who performed intense penance for thousands of years to bring the goddess Ganga down from the heavens to purify the ashes of his ancestors. However, her descent was so powerful it would have shattered the earth, so the god Shiva intervened, catching the mighty river in his matted hair, breaking her fall and allowing her to flow gently onto the earth. This myth underscores the river's divine origin and its connection to major deities, solidifying its sacred status. It also highlights the ancient understanding of the river's immense power. Beyond its spiritual significance, the Ganges is also a critical life-giving force for hundreds of millions of people living in the vast Indo-Gangetic plain. It provides water for drinking, irrigation, and transportation, supporting one of the most densely populated regions on the planet. this essential practical role is deeply intertwined with its spiritual meaning. The river sustains life in the most fundamental ways, making its divine status feel not just symbolic but a lived reality. The Ganges, in essence, is seen as a nurturing mother, providing for her children both physically and spiritually, a powerful example of how the sacred and the practical are inseparable in the ancient world's view of nature. Leaving the flowing divinity of the Ganges, we transition now to the monumental architecture of ancient Mesoamerica and the incredible city of Teotihuacan near modern-day Mexico City. Now, some might say, wait, the pyramids here are built by humans, not natural wonders. And you'd be right, they are colossal feats of engineering. But what's absolutely fascinating and crucial to understanding Teotihuacan is how these man-made structures were integrated with and inspired by the surrounding natural landscape. The people who built this vast city, which flourished thousands of years ago, didn't just pick a spot and start building. They carefully aligned their most important structures with significant natural features, particularly mountains. Look at the two largest pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. Their names themselves hint at their celestial connections, but their placement is tied directly to the Earth itself. The Pyramid of the Moon, for instance, sits at the northern end of the city's main avenue, the Avenue of the Dead, and it's designed to echo the shape and size of the mountain Cerro Gordo just behind it. This wasn't an accident. It reflects a profound Mesoamerican concept, the sacred landscape. For cultures throughout Mesoamerica, mountains weren't just geological formations. They were living entities, sources of water and fertility, and often considered dwelling places of gods or ancestors. Building a pyramid that mimicked a sacred mountain was a way of capturing that mountain's power, bringing its spiritual energy into the heart of the city. It was the practice of mirroring the natural world in their architecture, creating a powerful connection between the human-built environment and the divine forces believed to reside in nature. The sheer scale of Teotihuacan, with its massive pyramids and widespread urban layout, would have been utterly awe-inspiring to anyone visiting, much like the immense mountains that inspired its design. This sense of scale reinforced the power and importance of the city and the deities worshipped within it. While the name of the people who built Teotihuacan is lost to history, their reverence for the sun and moon, visible in the names of the pyramids and the city's layout, is clear. These celestial bodies were likely seen not just as lights in the sky, but as powerful deities influencing life on Earth. The city's planning, especially the orientation of the Avenue of the Dead and the pyramids, suggests a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, aligning significant structures with astronomical events like solstices or the movements of certain stars. These observations weren't just scientific, they were deeply intertwined with their cosmological beliefs, their understanding of the universe and their place within it. By aligning their pyramids with both the sacred mountains and the celestial bodies, the people of Teotihuacan created a powerful nexus point, a place where the earthly and the cosmic realms converged, all inspired by the natural world around them. From the vast urban landscapes of the ancient world, we now journey back deep into the earth to a place that offers a glimpse into the spiritual lives of our earliest ancestors, the Cave of Altamira in northern Spain. Step back with me about 36,000 years to a time when humans were painting masterpieces on cave walls. Why caves? Why would people choose these dark, often difficult to reach subterranean spaces for their most significant artistic and possibly spiritual expressions? Caves worldwide have been seen by various cultures as liminal spaces, thresholds between the familiar world above and the mysterious, hidden world below. They feel different. The natural darkness, the echoing sounds, the cool, constant temperature all combine to create an atmosphere that feels distinct, other, perhaps even sacred. Altamira is particularly renowned for its utterly stunning Upper Paleolithic cave paintings, often called the Sistine Chapel of Paleolithic art. The most famous are the exquisite depictions of bison on the ceiling of the main chamber. These aren't simplistic stick figures, they are incredibly detailed, dynamic, and vibrant images, showcasing an advanced understanding of form, movement, and color using natural pigments. The sheer skill involved suggests these weren't idle sketches. They were important, created by people with significant artistic talent. The purpose of these magnificent paintings is one of archaeology's great debates, and it likely wasn't just one thing. Were they simply art for art's sake? Perhaps, but given their location deep within caves, often in hard-to-access areas, many theories point towards a deeper significance. One popular idea is that they were part of hunting magic rituals, attempts to ensure success in the hunt by depicting the animals before venturing out. Another theory suggests they were used for storytelling, passing down myths and histories through visual narratives. The most compelling ideas, however, often center on spiritual practices. Were these caves initiation sites for young hunters, places where shamans entered trance states? Did the animals depicted represent spirits or deities? The darkness of the cave, lit perhaps only by flickering lamps, could have enhanced the visual effect of the paintings, making the animals appear to move, blurring the lines between the painted world and the spiritual realm. The echoes in the cave might have amplified chanting or drumming, creating an immersive, almost hypnotic environment perfect for ritual. The very act of entering the earth, going into the darkness, could have been seen as a journey into the spirit world. These paintings offer a powerful, silent testament to the complex inner lives and spiritual beliefs of people who lived tens of thousands of years ago, suggesting that the need to connect with something larger than themselves, often through the powerful symbols found in nature, is a deeply ingrained human trait. Emerging from the depths of ancient caves, we travel now to the heartland of North America, to a place of profound spiritual significance for numerous Native American tribes, particularly the Lakota people, the Black Hills, known to them as Pahasapa. Look at this region. It's a striking contrast to the surrounding plains, a dense collection of pine-covered mountains and dramatic rock formations that appear dark or black from a distance, hence the name. But for indigenous peoples, the Black Hills are far more than just a unique geographical area. They are the very center of their universe, a sacred landscape where creation stories unfold and spirits reside. Imagine the deep historical roots here for thousands of years. Various tribes have viewed Pahasapa as a holy place, a place of origin. The spiritual significance of the Black Hills is woven into the fabric of Lakota life through their most important ceremonies and rituals. The Sun Dance, one of the most central and sacred Lakota ceremonies, has historically been performed in this region, symbolizing renewal and connection to the Great Spirit. Vision quests, a crucial rite of passage for young men and women seeking spiritual guidance and purpose, are also traditionally undertaken in the solitude and power of the Black Hills. Specific natural features within the hills are considered especially sacred. Harney Peak, now known as Black Elk Peak, is the highest point and is considered a sacred place for prayer and meditation, providing a panoramic view that encompasses their entire world. Bear Butte, or Moto Tupila in Lakota, is another prominent landmark of immense spiritual importance, a site for vision quests and other sacred gatherings. These aren't simply picturesque spots, they are living temples imbued with the history, prayers, and presence of generations. The natural beauty of the Black Hills extends beyond the mountains themselves. It encompasses unique geological formations like the Needles, sharp granite spires that pierce the sky, and Wind Cave National Park, an extensive underground labyrinth considered sacred as a place of emergence in some creation narratives. The biodiversity of the region, the animals, plants, and waterways, all play a role in the spiritual ecology of Pahasapa, each element having its own meaning and connection to the wider web of life and the spirit world. Sadly, the history of the Black Hills is also one of broken promises and ongoing struggle. Despite treaties recognizing the Black Hills as belonging to the Lakota people, the discovery of gold in the late 1800s led to a brutal invasion by the United States government, the forced removal of tribes, and the seizure of their sacred lands. Mount Rushmore, carved into the face of Thunkashila Shakpe, or Six Grandfathers, a peak within the Black Hills, is viewed by many indigenous people not as a monument to American presidents, but as a desecration of a sacred site. Today, the fight to protect the Black Hills and reaffirm the rights of indigenous peoples to their ancestral lands continues. There have been legal battles and cultural movements aimed at reclaiming control over sacred sites and ensuring that the profound spiritual connection to Pahasapa is understood and respected by the wider world. The story of the Black Hills is a powerful reminder of the deep spiritual bond between indigenous peoples and the land, a bond that endures despite centuries of efforts to sever it, and a testament to the enduring power of a sacred natural place. Moving from the rolling hills and ancient stones of Ireland, we journey to the remote volcanic landscapes of Hawaii, where one mountain reigns supreme and is considered the most sacred place in the islands, Mauna Kea. Look at this mountain, often capped with snow despite its tropical location. It's not just a tall peak, it's the highest point in Hawaii and the tallest mountain in the world when measured from its base on the ocean floor. For native Hawaiians, Mauna Kea is much more than a geological giant. It is the meeting place of the earth and the sky, a realm inhabited by deities and ancestors, a place of profound spiritual power and cultural significance. In Hawaiian cosmology, Mauna Kea is the piko, the spiritual and physical center, connecting the heavens Lani and the earth Honua. It is considered Wauakua, the realm of the gods, particularly home to Wakea, the sky father, and Papa, the earth mother, the progenitors of the Hawaiian people. The summit is especially sacred, viewed as the most direct connection to the divine. Traditional chants and prayers often reference Mauna Kea, acknowledging its power and its role in creation stories. Climbing the mountain was, and for many still is, a deeply revered act undertaken for spiritual purposes, often after significant preparation and with specific protocols. It was a journey into the realm of the sacred, a way to seek blessings, offer prayers, and connect with the ancestral spirits. The natural environment of Mauna Kea, spanning diverse ecological zones from the warm coastline to the harsh, alpine conditions of the summit, is also seen as an integral part of its sacredness. The unique flora and fauna found at different elevations are part of the living entity that is the mountain. Lake Waiau, a small lake near the summit, is one of the few alpine lakes in the Pacific and is considered a sacred body of water, a dwelling place of spirits and a site for cultural practices. The cold, clear waters are used in purification rituals. The summit of Mauna Kea, with its exceptionally clear skies and minimal light pollution, has become one of the world's premier sites for astronomical observation, home to a complex of international telescopes. While undeniably important for scientific research, the presence of these telescopes on the sacred summit has been a source of significant conflict and protest from native Hawaiians and their allies. For many, the construction and expansion of astronomical facilities on Mauna Kea are seen as a profound disrespect and desecration of a sacred landscape, prioritizing scientific interests over cultural and spiritual values. The ongoing struggle to protect Mauna Kea highlights the tension between modern development and the preservation of indigenous sacred sites, underscoring the deep and enduring spiritual connection Hawaiians have with this magnificent mountain. From the starlit summit of Mauna Kea, we journey now to the often mist-shrouded peaks of the Andes Mountains in South America, a region where nature is seen as a living, breathing entity, and certain mountains hold immense spiritual power, particularly in the Inca worldview. For the Inca and the indigenous peoples of the Andes today, mountains are far more than just geological features. They are Apu's powerful mountain spirits or deities who govern the weather, protect communities, and act as intermediaries between the human world and the cosmos. Think about the sheer scale of the Andes, these towering peaks that dominate the landscape and touch the sky. it's easy to see why ancient cultures would attribute divine power to them. The most prominent and widely revered Apu was likely Mount Orsangate near Cusco in Peru. This magnificent snow-capped peak, considered the most sacred mountain in the Cusco region, was central to Inca spiritual practices. It was seen as a generator of life, the source of water for the surrounding valleys, and a protector of the people. Pilgrimages to Orsangate were, and still often are, undertaken as acts of devotion and to seek blessings for fertility, health, and abundance. The annual Koila Riti Festival, a vibrant blend of Catholic and indigenous traditions celebrated high in the Orsangate region, involves thousands of pilgrims journeying to a glacier tongue, demonstrating the enduring spiritual connection to this mountain. Other mountains across the vast Inca Empire were also considered Apus, each with its own name, characteristics, and sphere of influence. Machu Picchu, the famous Inca citadel, is situated in a breathtaking mountain setting and was likely a sacred retreat or ceremonial center, its location chosen precisely for its connection to the surrounding Apus. The Inca were masters of integrating their built environment with the natural landscape, and sites like Machu Picchu show a deep respect and understanding of the sacred mountains. They built terraces that followed the contours of the land and aligned structures with significant peaks, creating a harmonious relationship between their architecture and the powerful natural world around them. Rituals involving offerings to the Apus were a fundamental part of Andean life. These offerings could range from simple items like coca leaves, corn beer chicha, and animal sacrifices to, in earlier times, human sacrifice, particularly of children known as kapakocha, offered on the highest, coldest mountain peaks as the most precious gift to appease the powerful mountain deities and ensure the well-being of the empire. These acts, while difficult for us to comprehend today, underscore the profound belief in the power of the Apus and the lengths to which people would go to maintain cosmic balance. The reverence for the Apus continues to this day among indigenous communities in the Andes, demonstrating that the mountains remain living, powerful entities in their spiritual world, intimately connected to their identity and survival. From the towering Apus of the Andes, our journey takes us to a rugged peak in the stark, unforgiving landscape of the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, Mount Sinai. Known in Arabic as Jabal Musa or the Mountain of Moses, this mountain is a cornerstone of faith for millions worldwide, particularly in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Its significance lies in the profound belief that it was here, on this solitary peak rising dramatically from the desert floor, that Moses received the 10 Commandments from God. Think of the setting, a vast, silent desert stretching in every direction, a place of extreme heat and challenging terrain, and then this mountain. This isolation itself could be seen as a powerful element. The desert is a place stripped bare, where distractions fall away, potentially leading to a heightened sense of awareness and spiritual connection. The landscape of Mount Sinai is indeed rugged and awe-inspiring. It's composed of ancient granite and volcanic rock, its slopes carved by millennia of wind and sparse rain. The ascent to the summit is a challenging one, especially before modern paths were established. There are thousands of steps carved into the rock centuries ago, or a longer, winding path. This arduous climb has been, for countless pilgrims throughout history, a spiritual act in itself. Imagine the effort, the physical strain, the deliberate steps taken towards a sacred destination. This difficult journey could easily have been interpreted as a spiritual test, a demonstration of devotion and perseverance, mirroring the inner struggles faced on one's spiritual path. The area surrounding Mount Sinai has been a destination for hermits and monks seeking solitude and divine connection for centuries. The most famous testament to this enduring faith is the monastery of St. Catherine, located at the foot of the mountain. Dating back to the 6th century, it is one of the oldest continuously inhabited Christian monasteries in the world. Built around what is believed to be the site of the burning bush where God spoke to Moses, the monastery is a sanctuary in the wilderness, a place of scholarship, prayer, and pilgrimage, carefully preserving ancient manuscripts and icons. Pilgrimages to Mount Sinai have been a constant throughout history, attracting people seeking to stand on the ground where such momentous events are believed to have occurred. Ascending the mountain, often in the cool hours before dawn to witness the sunrise from the summit, is a powerful experience. Standing on that peak overlooking the vast wilderness, contemplating the stories associated with the site, it's easy to feel a sense of awe and proximity to the divine. The stark beauty and intense silence of the desert environment, coupled with the physical challenge of the climb, create an atmosphere conducive to introspection, prayer, and perhaps the kind of profound spiritual experiences that ancient texts describe. The enduring power of Mount Sinai lies not just in its historical or religious narratives, but in the way its natural environment seems to amplify the potential for encountering the sacred. Leaving the arid slopes of Mount Sinai, our journey now leads us to the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe in southern Africa, to a natural spectacle of incredible power, the Victoria Falls. While you might not find a temple perched on its edge, the sheer force and sensory overload of this colossal waterfall would have absolutely inspired profound awe and likely deep spiritual beliefs in the people who lived near it for millennia. Just listen to its indigenous name, Mosi Oatanya, which means the smoke that thunders in the Lozi language. Doesn't that perfectly capture the experience? Imagine standing nearby, feeling the ground vibrate from the incessant roar of the water, and seeing the enormous cloud of mist rising hundreds of meters into the air, visible from miles away. This isn't just water falling, it feels like the very earth is speaking, or perhaps a powerful spirit is making its presence known. For the local communities, particularly the Tonga people and others who have inhabited this region for generations, significant natural phenomena like Victoria Falls were not just inanimate objects. They were likely seen through an animistic lens, imbued with spirit or life force. While detailed historical records of specific rituals directly at the falls are scarce from pre-colonial times, the Zambezi River itself, of which the falls are a part, has a long history of reverence. Rivers were, and in many cultures still are, considered sacred as sources of life, transport, and cleansing. Offerings might have been made to the river spirits to ensure safe passage, successful fishing, or simply to honor the life-giving water. The falls, as the most dramatic and powerful section of the river, would naturally be seen as a particularly potent point, a place where the river's spirit manifested its immense strength most visibly. Consider the sheer volume of water plunging over the edge, millions of liters every second during the peak flow. This raw, untamed power is something that ancient peoples would have struggled to explain purely through natural processes. It's a display of force so immense it transcends the ordinary, readily lending itself to interpretations of the supernatural or divine. Perhaps the spirits of ancestors resided in the mist, or a powerful water deity controlled the flow. While concrete archaeological evidence like specific altars is limited, the enduring indigenous name, the smoke that thunders, itself is a powerful testament to how this natural wonder was perceived, not just seen, but felt, heard, and likely deeply respected as a manifestation of powerful, unseen forces in the world. Leaving the thundering power of Victoria Falls, we journey across the ocean to the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, a land where ancient cities rise from the jungle and hidden portals plunge into the earth. Here, at the majestic Maya site of Chichen Itza, lies a natural feature that was absolutely central to their spiritual world, the cenote sagrado, or sacred cenote. Now, what exactly is a cenote? Imagine the limestone bedrock of the Yucatan. Over millennia, rainwater has slowly dissolved this rock, creating vast underground cave systems. When the roofs of these caves collapse, they expose the groundwater below, forming these natural sinkholes or cenotes. In a region with very few surface rivers, these cenotes were the lifeblood of Maya civilization, their primary source of fresh water. But for the Maya, they were far more than just wells. They were seen as direct gateways to the underworld. The sacred cenote at Chichen Itza is particularly impressive, a massive, circular sinkhole about 60 meters in diameter with sheer cliffs dropping 27 meters to the green-tinged water below. For the Maya, this wasn't just a geographical feature. It was a profoundly sacred place, believed to be a dwelling place of the rain god Chok and a portal to Xibalba, their terrifying underworld. Imagine approaching the edge of this deep, dark pool, knowing that beneath its surface lay another realm. The practical necessity of relying on these sinkholes for water deeply intersected with this profound spiritual meaning. The source of life was also the entrance to the realm of death and the divine. The sacred cenote was the site of elaborate rituals and sacrifices, acts of appeasement and communication with the gods of the underworld and the elements. Archaeologists who have dredged the bottom of the cenote have made remarkable and sometimes unsettling discoveries. They found a wealth of offerings, including intricate gold and jade artifacts, pottery, and incense burners. Most significantly, they found human remains, including those of children, suggesting that sacrifices were made to the cenote, likely to ensure rainfall, agricultural fertility, or to honor the deities of Xibalba. Consider the depth of belief that would lead a society to offer their most precious possessions, and even human lives, to this natural portal. The Maya concept of Xibalba was complex. It wasn't simply a place of punishment like some Western hells. It was a realm of powerful deities, challenges, and transformation. Because cenotes provided access to the underground water table, they were logically connected to this subterranean world. The sacred cenote at Chichen Itza, being so large and prominent near a major city, would have been considered a particularly potent and important link to Xibalba. The rituals performed here were likely attempts to maintain balance with this powerful realm, ensuring the continuation of life above ground. The sacred cenote stands as a powerful example of how essential natural resources can become deeply intertwined with complex spiritual beliefs, transforming a vital water source into a venerated gateway to the divine and the mysterious. Leaving the subterranean portals of the Maya, we turn our gaze back to the Mediterranean, to a mountain that wasn't just climbed, but believed to be the literal dwelling place of the gods themselves, Mount Olympus in Greece. Think of this mountain range, particularly its highest peak, Mythical, towering nearly 2,900 meters above sea level. It's often shrouded in clouds and mist, its summit frequently hidden from view. To the ancient Greeks, this wasn't just weather. It was a sign of the divine realm being veiled, inaccessible to mere mortals. This imposing height, this often hidden summit, made it the perfect mythological home for the most powerful deities of their pantheon, the 12 Olympians. In ancient Greek religion and mythology, Mount Olympus wasn't a place where humans built temples and performed daily rituals on the mountain itself in the way they did at sites like Delphi or the Acropolis. Instead, its sacredness came from its perceived status as the celestial palace, the meeting hall, and the residential area of Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Ares, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Hermes, Hestia, and Dionysus, though the list of 12 could vary slightly. Imagine their minds picturing grand feasts, divine arguments, and decisions that shaped the mortal world happening high above them, literally in the clouds on this majestic peak. The idea of the gods residing on such an inaccessible summit reinforced their otherworldliness and supreme power. Mount Olympus wasn't just a static backdrop. It was deeply embedded in countless myths and stories that formed the core of Greek culture. The battles of the gods, their interventions in human affairs, their loves, jealousies, and trials all were linked to this divine abode. It symbolized the ultimate power structure of their universe, the source of divine will and authority. While people worshipped at temples dedicated to the Olympian gods in cities and sanctuaries across Greece, the mountain itself held this profound, overarching sacred status as their home. Its physical presence in the landscape constantly reminded the Greeks of the divine realm existing above them, watching over them and occasionally interacting with their world. The unyielding height and the atmospheric mystery of Mount Olympus perfectly embodied the majesty and distance of the gods it was believed to house, making it a natural wonder of immense cultural and religious significance. From the mythical heights of Mount Olympus, we descend once more to the life-giving power of water, this time to the river that was arguably the single most crucial factor in the rise and survival of one of the world's greatest ancient civilizations, the Nile in Egypt. Calling the Nile the lifeblood of ancient Egypt isn't an exaggeration. It is the absolute truth. Look at a map of ancient Egypt and what do you see? A thin strip of vibrant green civilization winding through vast, inhospitable desert. That green is entirely thanks to the Nile River. Without its waters, ancient Egypt simply could not have existed, let alone flourished for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians deeply understood their utter dependence on the Nile, and this practical understanding was inextricably linked with profound spiritual reverence. They didn't just see it as a natural resource, they worshipped it as a god. The primary deity associated with the Nile was Hapi, depicted as a pot-bellied man, often with blue or green skin, symbolizing the fertility and abundance brought by the river. Hapi wasn't part of the main pantheon of sky or earth gods in the same way, but his importance was paramount because he controlled the annual inundation, the yearly flood that was the most critical event in the Egyptian calendar. Imagine standing on the banks of the Nile in anticipation each year. After months of low water levels, the river would begin to swell, its waters turning reddish-brown with the rich silt carried from the highlands of Ethiopia. This annual flood, though it might seem destructive to us today, was the essential force that deposited fertile soil onto the fields, renewing the land and making agriculture possible in a desert climate. It was a natural miracle, a predictable cycle of death and rebirth for the land. The Egyptians celebrated this inundation with festivals and rituals dedicated to Hapi, offering prayers and gifts to ensure the flood was neither too low, leading to famine, nor too high, causing destruction. They knew their survival depended on Hapi's benevolence. The Egyptians also pondered the mystery of the Nile source. For most of their history, the origin of the vast river was unknown to them, adding to its mystique and divine aura. This unknown source was sometimes linked to the primeval waters from which creation sprang, further connecting the river to the very beginnings of their world. Furthermore, the Nile held a symbolic connection to the afterlife. The journey of the sun god Ra across the sky was sometimes mirrored by the journey of the deceased along the Nile towards the west, the land of the setting sun and the realm of the dead. The river was seen as a path, a transition, much like it was a path for life and sustenance in the physical world. This consistent, predictable cycle of flooding and receding, year after year after year for millennia, would have felt like a divine rhythm to the ancient Egyptians, a reliable gift from the gods that made their remarkable civilization possible. It's a powerful illustration of a society whose entire worldview was shaped by a single, magnificent natural wonder. From the annually flooding life of the Nile, we move to a body of water that seems almost the opposite, the Dead Sea in the Middle East. This isn't a place bursting with life along its banks. In fact, its extreme salinity makes it one of the most inhospitable environments on Earth for most living things. Yet, despite its harshness, or perhaps because of it, the Dead Sea holds a place of intrigue and potential spiritual significance, particularly given its location in a region steeped in the history of the Abrahamic faiths. At first glance, a place where nothing grows and little lives might seem devoid of spiritual connection, but for ancient cultures, the unusual often held deep meaning. Think about its most famous characteristic, its incredible saltiness, 10 times saltier than the ocean, which makes it impossible for people to sink. You effortlessly float on its surface. How would an ancient person unfamiliar with the science of buoyancy have perceived this? It might have seemed miraculous, defying the natural order of things, perhaps a sign of divine power or unusual properties inherent in the water itself. The Dead Sea is nestled in a dramatic rift valley, surrounded by arid hills and cliffs. This stark, isolated landscape could have contributed to its mystique, making it seem like a place set apart, perhaps even a boundary between realms. While there isn't extensive archaeological evidence of widespread worship centered on the Dead Sea itself in the same way as the Ganges or the Nile, its proximity to places mentioned in biblical texts is notable. The infamous cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, destroyed for their wickedness, are traditionally located in the region south of the Dead Sea, while the scientific reality is that geological events or environmental factors likely led to their demise. The biblical narrative frames it as divine judgment. The Dead Sea, in this context, could be seen as part of a landscape marked by divine wrath, a stark reminder of consequences. Some interpretations have linked the sea's barrenness to this destruction. Moreover, throughout history, the remote areas around the Dead Sea have been sought out by those seeking solitude, asceticism, and spiritual purification. The Essenes, a Jewish sectarian group from the Second Temple period associated with the Qumran caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, lived a communal and devout life in the wilderness near the sea. While their primary focus was likely on purity laws and eschatological beliefs rather than direct worship of the sea, their choice of this severe landscape for their spiritual practices suggests the region held a certain draw for those seeking a deeper connection to the divine outside of established centers. The harshness of the environment itself could be seen as conducive to spiritual discipline and penance. The unique mineral properties of the Dead Sea water and mud have also been recognized for their therapeutic qualities for millennia. While this is a physical healing, in ancient times, physical and spiritual well-being were often intertwined. A place known for its ability to heal the body might easily acquire an aura of spiritual potency. The Dead Sea, with its unusual floating capacity, its dramatic setting, and its historical links to narratives of judgment and asceticism, stands as a natural wonder whose very strangeness likely inspired contemplation and imbued it with a quiet, perhaps even formidable, spiritual presence in the ancient mind. Leaving the stark, mineral-rich waters of the Dead Sea, we venture now into the dense jungles of Cambodia, to a place where human ingenuity met the natural world on an astonishing scale: Angkor Wat. Now, on the surface, Angkor Wat is a breathtaking temple complex, a testament to the architectural prowess of the Khmer Empire. But to truly understand its sacredness, you have to look beyond the stone temples themselves and consider the entire landscape, how it was shaped and integrated with the surrounding natural environment. The builders of Angkor didn't just drop a city and temples into the jungle. They designed the entire layout, including massive artificial reservoirs and a network of canals, as a deliberate reflection of their cosmological beliefs. Imagine the Khmer civilization's view of the universe. Their cosmology, heavily influenced by Hinduism and later Buddhism, saw the world as centered around Mount Meru, the mythical home of the gods, surrounded by oceans and continents. The architects and engineers of Angkor attempted to recreate this cosmic mountain and surrounding waters on Earth. The central towers of Angkor Wat represent Mount Meru, and the vast moats and reservoirs surrounding the complex symbolize the cosmic oceans. These weren't just decorative features or practical water management systems, though they served those functions too. They were sacred bodies of water, part of a divine landscape brought to life. Water itself held immense significance in Khmer culture and beliefs. In a tropical climate where successional cycles of rain and drought dictated life, water was naturally associated with fertility, purification, and the divine. The large artificial lakes known as barrays, like the East Barray and West Barray, covering thousands of acres, weren't just for irrigation. They were also seen as sacred reservoirs, places for ritual cleansing and symbolic oceans within their earthly cosmos. Pilgrims and priests would have interacted with these waters as part of their spiritual practices, reinforcing the connection between the natural element and the divine realms. The harmonious blend of human construction and the natural environment at Angkor is what makes it truly unique. The temples rise from a landscape dramatically altered by human hands, yet it feels like the architecture is in conversation with the earth and water around it. The strategic placement of the temples, the orientation of the causeways, the design of the barrays and canals all point to a profound understanding and reverence for both the natural world and the cosmic order. They created a sacred space not just through building impressive structures, but by transforming the very landscape into a living representation of their spiritual universe, demonstrating a deep integration of faith, engineering, and the powerful elements of nature. Leaving the ancient, constructed cosmos of Angkor, we delve into a very different kind of natural wonder, one not built of stone but of water, cypress trees, and a haunting beauty, the Okefenokee Swamp in the southeastern United States. Imagine this vast, mysterious wetland, stretching across nearly 770 square miles of southern Georgia and northern Florida. For the indigenous peoples who have lived near it for millennia, particularly the Seminole and Creek tribes, the Okefenokee wasn't just a geographical feature. It was a place of deep spiritual significance, a landscape teeming with life and mystery. Think about what it's like to be within a swamp environment. It's complex, challenging to navigate, filled with hidden dangers, and incredibly rich with live alligators, snakes, countless birds, and unique plant life. This untamed, powerful nature often inspires a sense of awe and a feeling that you are in a place where the rules are different, where powerful forces are at work. For many indigenous cultures worldwide, such challenging, untamed environments were seen not just as difficult places to survive, but as places where powerful spirits or forces resided, where the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds felt thin. The Okefenokee, with its vastness, its murky waters, and its dense, often impenetrable vegetation, fits this description perfectly. It could be a place of trial, a place of power, and a place where one could encounter the sacred. The rich biodiversity of the Okefenokee, the sheer abundance and variety of life it supports, would have been deeply respected by indigenous peoples whose lives were intimately connected to the natural world. Every animal, every plant, every waterway could be seen as having its own spirit or significance within the larger ecosystem. Myths and legends surely arose from this unique environment. While specific ancient creation myths tied directly to the Okefenokee's formation by indigenous peoples can be hard to definitively pinpoint due to the disruptions of colonization, many tribal stories across the region speak of powerful water spirits, giant serpents dwelling in deep pools, or creatures that bridge the gap between animal and human forms, all perfectly suited to the mysterious depths of a place like the Okefenokee. Such stories serve to both explain the natural world and reinforce a sense of respect and caution towards its powerful inhabitants and forces. The swamp, in essence, was a living being in their spiritual framework, deserving of deep reverence and careful interaction. A powerful example of how complex ecosystems themselves can be viewed as profoundly sacred. Stepping away from the mysterious depths of the Okefenokee, we venture to an island rising dramatically from the Atlantic Ocean, one dominated by a single, powerful peak, Mount Teide in the Canary Islands, specifically on the island of Tenerife. Look at this colossal stratovolcano, its summit often dusted with snow, surrounded by a stark, otherworldly landscape of volcanic rock and craters. For the ancient Guanches, the indigenous people of the Canary Islands before the arrival of Europeans, Mount Teide wasn't just a prominent geographical feature. It was a place of immense spiritual significance, deeply woven into their cosmology and feared for its raw power. Imagine living on this island with this enormous volcano looming over you. Its presence would have been impossible to ignore, a constant reminder of the Earth's immense power. To the Guanches, Mount Teide was not a benevolent presence. It was believed to be the dwelling place of Gwaiyota, the god of evil and darkness, who was responsible for volcanic eruptions and potentially other misfortunes. The volcano's caldera and vents, places where the Earth's fiery breath escaped, were seen as entrances to the underworld, a dangerous realm ruled by Gwaiyota. Consider what it would have been like to witness an eruption. Terrifying tremors shaking the ground, molten rock flowing down the slopes, ash and smoke filling the sky, the air thick with sulfur. These events would have been interpreted not as natural geological processes, but as direct manifestations of Gwaiyota's power or anger. The sheer destructive force of a volcanic eruption would have understandably inspired fear and likely led to rituals aimed at appeasing this powerful deity. Myths surrounding Tade highlight this fear and the desire to control or understand the volcano's power. One prominent legend tells the story of Gwaiyota kidnapping Magic, the god of light and the sun, and imprisoning him inside Tade, plunging the world into darkness. The other gods, seeking to free Magic, engaged in a cosmic battle with Gwaiyota, ultimately defeating him and trapping him inside the mountain, sealing the summit with a cone-shaped plug, the peak we see today. While Magic was rescued, the legend served as a constant reminder that Gwaiyota was still there, potentially capable of breaking free and unleashing havoc once more. This myth not only explained volcanic activity, but also reinforced the mountain's status as a prison for a powerful, malevolent force. The dramatic landscape surrounding Tade, a national park today, is a direct result of past volcanic activity. It's a stark, beautiful, and somewhat intimidating environment of lava flows, cinder cones, and volcanic rock formations in a variety of colors. This unique terrain, so different from the fertile areas of the island, would have undoubtedly contributed to the feeling that Tade was a separate, powerful realm, distinct from the everyday world. While the Guanches are no longer the inhabitants of the Canary Islands, their ancient reverence for Mount Tade as a place of powerful, potentially dangerous spiritual forces stands as a compelling example of how the raw, destructive power of a volcano can become deeply intertwined with a culture's understanding of the divine, the underworld, and the need for appeasement. Leaving the volcanic power of Mount Tade, we now travel far north to the rugged, heather-covered landscapes of the Scottish Highlands. Here, amidst sweeping glens, towering mountains, and deep, mysterious lochs, the ancient Celtic peoples found a world alive with spirits and deities. Look at the dramatic terrain, the jagged peaks that pierce the sky, the vast, often dark waters of the lochs, the ancient forests clinging to the slopes. This isn't a gentle or manicured landscape. It is wild, powerful, and untamed, and it's easy to see how it would inspire a profound sense of awe and reverence in those who lived intimately within it. For the ancient Celts, every significant natural feature had its own spirit or guardian. These weren't generalized deities in the sky, but spirits of place, powerful beings intrinsically linked to a specific mountain, a particular loch, a certain spring, or even an ancient tree. Consider the mountains, known as Bain in Gaelic. Each peak, especially the prominent ones like Ben Nevis, though perhaps not as a specific worshipped peak as much as a powerful landscape feature, or others mentioned in local folklore, could be seen as the domain of a mountain spirit, an ancient being who controlled the weather, the movement of animals, and the very stability of the earth. Approaching these mountains might have involved showing respect, offering a small token, or speaking a prayer before venturing onto their slopes. The lochs, the deep, sometimes unfathomable lakes scattered throughout the highlands, held a particular mystique. Legends of kelpies, shape-shifting water spirits often appearing as horses, or other mysterious creatures residing in their depths, speak to the sense of mystery and potential danger, but also power, attributed to these bodies of water. Offerings were sometimes made to lochs, perhaps thrown into the water to appease the spirits within or ensure safe passage. Springs and wells, especially those with unusual properties or locations, were frequently considered sacred, associated with healing or prophecy, and were sites for leaving votive offerings. While concrete archaeological evidence of specific altars or large-scale temples dedicated to these spirits of place in the pre-Christian Celtic highlands can be scattered due to the transient nature of some rituals and the materials used, historical accounts and later folklore certainly point to the practice of making offerings at natural sites. These might have been simple acts leaving food, drink, or perhaps small carved figures at a sacred well, tying rags to a tree near a spring as part of a healing ritual, or placing stones on a cairn on a mountaintop for protection or good fortune on a journey. These weren't grand, public spectacles like those in some other ancient cultures. They were often personal acts of devotion, acknowledging the presence and power of the spirits that inhabited the landscape. The sheer difficulty of traversing parts of the highlands, the sudden changes in weather, the feeling of isolation in vast glens, all these elements of the natural environment would have reinforced the idea that powerful forces were at work, demanding respect and recognition. The wild, untamed nature of the highlands wasn't just scenery, it was a living, breathing spiritual realm. Leaving behind the misty mountains of the Scottish Highlands, we arrive now in the sun-drenched Aegean Sea, at a small, remarkably significant island in Greece, Delos. Today, Delos is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, famous for its extensive archaeological ruins showcasing a vibrant ancient city that was a major religious and trading center. But its sacredness didn't initially come from the temples and houses built there. Its profound spiritual importance stemmed from a powerful natural origin story, one that made this small island the mythological birthplace of two of the most important gods in the Greek pantheon: Apollo, the god of music, light, prophecy, and healing, and his twin sister, Artemis, goddess of the hunt, wild animals, and childbirth. Imagine the myth. Zeus's consort, Hera, was fiercely jealous of Leto, whom Zeus had impregnated. In her rage, Hera forbade any land on earth from giving refuge to Leto for her to give birth. Poor Leto wandered, finding no place willing to risk Hera's wrath. Finally, the small, barren island of Delos, which was said to have been a floating island at the time, agreed to receive her, perhaps either out of pity or because it had nothing to lose as it was not fixed to the earth. And so, on this humble island beneath a palm tree, Leto gave birth to the radiant twins Apollo and Artemis. This dramatic birth, this moment of divine arrival on its soil, instantly transformed Delos from an insignificant piece of land into a place of unparalleled sanctity. While Delos today appears rocky and somewhat arid, its natural features undoubtedly played a role in its mythological and ritual significance. There is a sacred lake, now largely dried up and covered, which was considered holy ground, a place associated with the nymphs and central to rituals involving swans sacred to Apollo. The island's relative isolation and its appearance as a small, distinct entity in the sea could have contributed to the idea of it being a special, perhaps even mobile, place before it was anchored for Leto. Consider the view from Delos, surrounded by other islands of the Cyclades. It feels like a natural center point, a geographical hub that seems almost destined for prominence. The palm tree under which Leto gave birth became a sacred landmark, a physical connection to the divine event that consecrated the island. Pilgrims would visit this spot, leaving offerings and paying homage to the birthplace. The belief in this divine origin had a powerful, tangible effect on Delos. It was declared a sacred sanctuary, a place where death and even birth were eventually prohibited to maintain its purity, a unique practice for an ancient city. It became a major pilgrimage destination, drawing visitors from across the Greek world. Powerful city-states like Athens sought control over Delos, not just for its strategic location, but for the prestige and religious authority gained from being the guardian of Apollo's birthplace. The island's natural origin story, the simple tale of two divine births, elevated it to one of the most important religious sites in the ancient Mediterranean, demonstrating how mythology could invest a physical place with profound spiritual power. Leaving the mythological birthplace of Greek gods on Delos, we cross the seas once more, heading northwest to the rugged coast of Northern Ireland, to a place that looks less like the work of nature and more like a pathway built by giants, the Giant's Causeway. Look at this incredible coastline, thousands upon thousands of perfectly hexagonal basalt columns rising from the sea and marching up the cliff face like enormous stepping stones. It's a sight so unusual, so geometrically precise, that it's no surprise ancient people didn't explain it with cooling lava flows and geological processes. Instead, they attributed its creation to a much more exciting force, giants, specifically the legendary Irish giant Finn mac Cool. The most beloved myth tells of Finn mac Cool building the causeway as a way to cross the North Channel to Scotland to fight his rival, the Scottish giant Benandana. In some versions of the story, Finn is challenged by Benandana. In others, he builds it himself only to be tricked. The tale often involves Finn's clever wife, Unog, who disguises Finn as a baby to fool the much larger Benandana, leading to Benandana's hasty retreat back to Scotland, supposedly destroying parts of the causeway behind him. This story wasn't just entertainment, it was a way for ancient people to make sense of this utterly bizarre natural formation. How else could such perfect, interlocking columns have formed but by the hand of a colossal, supernatural being? Before the advent of modern geology, which explains these columns as the result of columnar jointing in cooling basalt lava, essentially, the lava contracts as it cools, cracking in polygonal patterns. Such striking and unusual natural features were almost universally explained through folklore, mythology, and the actions of gods, spirits, or giants. Places like the Giant's Causeway were wonders, defying simple explanation, and therefore often imbued with a sense of the sacred or the supernatural. They were places where the boundary between the natural world and the mythical seemed porous. Imagine encountering this site for the first time without any scientific background. It would feel magical, possibly even a little intimidating, a place marked by the presence of beings far larger and older than humans. The sheer visual impact of the causeway reinforces these stories. The way the columns fit together so neatly, almost like paving stones, and their sheer number stretching along the coast, lends itself perfectly to the idea of an enormous construction project undertaken by a giant. The fragmented nature of the causeway, with sections appearing on the Scottish side as well, only fuels the story of Finn and Benandana, suggesting a once complete bridge that was broken. The Giant's Causeway remains a powerful reminder of how ancient cultures interpreted the extraordinary phenomena of the natural world through the lens of myth and legend, transforming remarkable geology into a landscape shaped by giants and steeped in wonder. Leaving the stepping stones of the Giant's Causeway, we journey back to the Middle East, to a landscape that stretches limitlessly under a vast sky, the Sinai Desert. You might think of a desert as simply empty space, but for ancient cultures, particularly those whose narratives form the basis of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the desert was a place of profound spiritual encounter, a crucible for testing faith, and a necessary stage for transformation. Picture this immense, silent wilderness, miles upon miles of sand, rock, and sparse vegetation, punctuated by rugged mountains. This isn't a landscape that offers easy comfort. It demands resilience and strips away distractions, and perhaps that's precisely why it became so significant spiritually. The most famous narrative tied to the Sinai Desert is, of course, the 40 years of wandering by the Israelites after their exodus from Egypt. This wasn't just a geographical detour, it was a period of testing, purification, and receiving divine law. Living in the harsh conditions of the desert, relying on miraculous provision for food and water, forced the Israelites to confront their faith and their relationship with the divine in a way that would not have been possible in a settled, comfortable environment. The desert, in this context, is an active participant in their spiritual journey, a challenging arena designed to shape their identity as a people. beyond this communal experience, the desert has historically been a place sought out by prophets, hermits, and holy figures across these faiths for solitude, meditation, and spiritual enlightenment. Moses spent significant time in the wilderness, including his encounters with the burning bush and receiving the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai, a peak located within this vast desert landscape. Jesus is said to have spent 40 days fasting and being tempted in the wilderness. The Prophet Muhammad also spent time in solitary contemplation in a cave outside of Mecca, another city in a desert environment, receiving his first revelations. What is it about this stark, empty landscape that draws those seeking a deeper connection to the divine? Perhaps the sheer isolation removes the noise of the world, allowing for clearer introspection and a heightened sensitivity to spiritual presence. The challenges of survival in the desert, the intense heat, the scarcity of water, the exposure to the elements can strip away reliance on worldly comforts and force a confrontation with one's own vulnerability, potentially leading to a profound sense of dependence on a higher power. For early Christian monks and hermits, the deserts of Egypt and the Sinai became spiritual battlegrounds, places to confront inner demons and seek union with God through asceticism and prayer. The harshness of the environment mirrored the rigor of their spiritual discipline. The starkness of the desert, its apparent emptiness to the casual observer, can also be perceived as a landscape of pure potential, a blank canvas upon which the divine can reveal itself without the clutter of human civilization. It is a place that humbles, purifies, and for those who seek it, offers a unique environment for profound spiritual transformation. The Sinai Desert remains a powerful, silent testament to the spiritual journeys undertaken within its bounds for millennia. Stepping out of the vastness of the desert, we return to the lush landscapes of Greece, but this time not to the high mountains of the gods, but to the hidden, watery realms of the nymphs. Ancient Greek belief wasn't just focused on the major Olympian deities. It also encompassed a rich tapestry of nature spirits, and among the most beloved were the nymphs. These feminine beings weren't immortal in the same way as the gods, but they were long-lived and intimately tied to specific natural places, the spirits of springs, rivers, trees, meadows, and particularly caves. Imagine the feeling of entering a cool, damp cave after the heat of the Greek sun, hearing the drip of water, seeing the glimmer of light on wet rock, perhaps encountering a small pool within. Such places felt alive, mysterious, and distinctly separate from the ordinary world, and it was in these settings that the nymphs were believed to reside. Caves were especially significant as dwelling places for various types of nymphs: the Nereids of the sea, the Naiads of freshwater springs and rivers, the Oreads of the mountains, and the Dryads and Hamadryads of trees. A cave with a spring bubbling up from its depths would be a particularly powerful spot, combining the sanctity of the earth's embrace with the life-giving power of water, a perfect home for a Naiad. One famous example is the Cave of the Nymphs on the island of Ithaca, linked in mythology to Odysseus. While fictional, its description in Homer's Odyssey reflects a real belief in such places. These caves weren't just shelters, they were seen as portals to a mystical realm, places where the divine energy of nature was concentrated. Their cool interiors offered refuge from the elements, and the unusual formations of stalactites and stalagmites could easily be interpreted as signs of supernatural activity or even the petrified forms of the nymphs themselves. For ancient Greeks, interacting with nymphs was generally seen as beneficial. They were often associated with fertility, healing, poetic inspiration, and prophecy. Given their connection to water, they were particularly important for agricultural communities reliant on springs and streams. People would visit these sacred caves, springs, or groves to offer prayers and gifts to the resident nymphs, seeking their favor. Offerings might include small figurines, pottery, coins, food, flowers, or even lockets of hair. These weren't elaborate temple rituals, they were often more personal acts of devotion, acknowledging the spirit of the place and requesting protection, a good harvest, healing from illness, or creative inspiration. The act of leaving an offering at a spring or in a cave was a way of showing respect for the life force of nature and seeking a harmonious relationship with the unseen beings who shared their world. The belief in nymphs imbued the everyday landscape with a sense of magic and spiritual presence, making ordinary springs, groves, and caves into places of quiet reverence and connection to the mystical aspects of the natural world. Emerging from the hidden grottos of the nymphs, we cast our gaze upon the highest mountain range on Earth, the Himalayas. This isn't just a chain of incredibly tall mountains. It is a spiritual heartland for millions, a place where the very peaks are considered sacred and the air is believed to be thinner not just literally but spiritually. Think about the sheer scale, range after range of snow-capped giants stretching across the horizon, reaching altitudes that seem barely possible. For the people of this region, encompassing parts of Nepal, India, Bhutan, and Tibet, the Himalayas are not simply geology but a living, breathing, divine landscape. Among these giants, one peak stands out, not just for its height but for its profound sacredness, Sagarmatha, known internationally as Mount Everest. While many know it as the ultimate climbing challenge, its local names speak to a much deeper reverence. To the Sherpas and Tibetans, it is Chomolungma, meaning goddess mother of the world, a powerful deity whose domain is the very mountain itself. To the Nepalese, it is Sagarmatha, forehead of the sky. These names are not metaphorical. They reflect a belief that this immense peak is literally inhabited by powerful gods and spirits. Imagine viewing this colossal mountain not as an inanimate object to be conquered, but as the home of a goddess. Buddhists and Hindus throughout the Himalayan region hold the mountains in immense respect. For Buddhists, the peaks are often seen as dwelling places of bodhisattvas or enlightened beings, places of meditation and spiritual practice. Prayer flags flutter in the high mountain winds, carrying prayers and blessings across the landscape. For Hindus, the Himalayas are associated with many deities, particularly Shiva, whose abode is often said to be in the mountains and as the source of sacred rivers like the Ganges. Pilgrimages to temples and sacred sites located high in the Himalayas, though physically demanding, are considered acts of immense piety and spiritual merit, seeking blessings from the deities residing in these lofty realms. The sheer difficulty and danger of accessing these highest peaks even today would have only amplified their sacredness in ancient times. The harsh climate, the lack of oxygen, the unpredictable weather, these were not just physical challenges. They could easily be interpreted as the mountain itself testing those who dared to approach or guarding the divine realm from casual intrusion. Before the commercialization of climbing, venturing into the higher reaches of the Himalayas was often undertaken with a sense of deep respect and trepidation, accompanied by rituals and prayers to appease the mountain spirits and ensure safe passage. Climbers today still often engage in pujas, ceremonies led by Buddhist lamas, asking for permission and protection from Chomolungma before attempting to ascend her slopes. This tradition reflects the enduring belief that the mountain is a powerful entity, not a passive object. The feeling of being incredibly high up, closer to the sky, with the world spread out below, naturally fosters a sense of being closer to the divine, a feeling that these monumental peaks are literally reaching into the heavens. From the frozen heights of the Himalayas, we journey south across continents to the vast, sweeping plains of Tanzania, the Serengeti. When you think of the Serengeti, you likely picture the incredible wildlife: lions, elephants, giraffes, but perhaps its most defining feature, and a truly ancient spectacle, is the Great Migration. Imagine millions of wildebeest accompanied by zebras and gazelles moving in a colossal, unified herd across the landscape in a never-ending search for fresh grazing and water following the rains. This isn't a static natural wonder like a mountain or a river. It's a dynamic, living phenomenon, a cycle of life and death played out on a grand scale. While you might not find ancient temples built for the migration, this monumental event would have profoundly impacted the spiritual beliefs of the indigenous communities who lived alongside it for millennia. Consider living in this environment, utterly dependent on the natural world for survival. Your very existence would be tied to the unpredictable patterns of rainfall that drive this massive movement of animals, providing a crucial food source. For ancient peoples without modern scientific understanding of ecology and weather patterns, such a predictable yet uncontrollable natural cycle, involving millions of creatures moving as one, would have felt like a force far greater than themselves. It's highly probable that the Great Migration was interpreted as a divinely guided event, a manifestation of spiritual forces or the will of creator deities shaping the world. While specific, documented ancient beliefs directly worshipping the migration itself are challenging to pinpoint definitively due to the historical complexities of the region, animistic beliefs, where spirits inhabit natural phenomena, were and often still are prevalent among many traditional African cultures. It's logical to infer that an event as overwhelming and vital as the migration would be imbued with significant spiritual meaning. The sheer spectacle of it is overwhelming. The thunder of millions of hooves on the earth, the dust clouds rising to the sky, the endless stream of animals stretching to the horizon, this is a display of nature's power and magnitude that resonates deep within us. For ancient observers, this synchronized movement could easily have been seen as the animals being directed by unseen forces, perhaps following a divine path laid out for them. The vital importance of the migration for sustenance would have further cemented its sacred status. The hunt, while a necessity, would likely have been approached with respect and rituals, acknowledging the spirits of the animals and the larger cycle of life of which they were a part, a cycle orchestrated by the movement across the plains. Natural cycles of this magnitude, the turning of seasons, the movement of celestial bodies, and the migration of animals were often seen by ancient cultures as the clearest demonstrations of the cosmic order, the predictable yet mysterious workings of the universe often attributed to divine design. The Serengeti's Great Migration is a powerful, ongoing example of how a profound natural cycle, essential for life's continuation, could be viewed as an active, living manifestation of spiritual power, shaping the beliefs and practices of the people who shared its landscape. From the vast plains of the Serengeti, we turn our attention to a different kind of ancient wonder, one defined by colossal, living things, the redwood forests of the Pacific Northwest in the United States. Step into these forests and you are immediately dwarfed. Look up, way up, at trees that reach heights exceeding 350 feet, trees that were already ancient when the Egyptian pyramids were being built. This isn't just a collection of trees, it's a living cathedral, a place where the sheer scale and age of the life around you inspire a profound sense of humility and awe. For the indigenous peoples of this region, including the Yurok, Karuk, and Tolowa tribes, these giant redwoods and the ancient forests they inhabit were, and many still are, deeply sacred places. Imagine living for thousands of years alongside these massive, ancient beings. A single redwood tree can live for well over 2,000 years, witnessing generations of human life come and go. How would you perceive something so enduring, so immense? It's logical that these trees were seen not just as plants, but as embodying powerful natural spirits, ancient beings connected to the very essence of the earth. Forests themselves, especially old-growth forests like these with their complex ecosystems and deep shadows, often hold a unique mystique. They are places of shelter, sustenance, and natural power. For the indigenous cultures here, the forest was alive, a community of interconnected beings, the trees, the animals, the plants, the spirits that resided among them. While specific ancient rituals tied directly to worshipping individual redwood trees can be difficult to pinpoint definitively across diverse tribes, the reverence for the forest and its largest inhabitants is well documented. The trees provided essential resources: wood for canoes and shelter, plant materials for tools and medicine, but this practical relationship was underpinned by deep respect. Stories and beliefs often centered on the spiritual significance of ancient trees and forests as places of power, wisdom, and connection to the ancestors. Some trees, perhaps those with unusual shapes or particularly great age, might have been considered especially sacred, marking a spot for prayer or offerings. The sheer presence of these giants, standing for millennia, embodies a sense of timelessness, connecting the present moment to a deep past and a distant future. Their longevity itself could be seen as a sign of spiritual strength and connection to the enduring forces of nature. The grandeur and power of the redwood forests were not simply scenery, they were a living spiritual environment, a place where the divine presence was palpable in the immense scale and ancient life of the trees themselves. Stepping out from the towering giants of the redwood forests, we now journey to an island just off the coast of Mumbai in India, to a place where ancient devotion is etched into the very rock, the caves of Elephanta. Today, these caves are famous for their magnificent, intricately carved Hindu sculptures, particularly the awe-inspiring Trimurti, a colossal three-faced image of Shiva. But before these incredible artworks were created, these were simply natural caves carved out of the basalt rock of the island by millennia of geological forces. Imagine these dark openings in the hillside, perhaps known and used by local people for shelter long before they became a canvas for religious art. The history of the Elephanta caves as sacred spaces likely predates the construction of the major temples within them, which are generally attributed to the Kalachuri dynasty around the mid-6th century CE. It's highly probable that these natural caverns were already seen as special places, perhaps associated with local deities or spirits even in earlier periods. Why would a natural cave inspire such reverence? Caves offer a unique environment. They provide shelter and protection from the elements, acting as natural sanctuaries. Entering a cave is a transition from the bright, open world into darkness, quietness, and a constant, earthy temperature. This enclosed, womb-like feeling, combined with the mysterious depths and echoing sounds, could easily have been perceived as entering a liminal space, a place between the familiar and the unknown, a perfect setting for encountering the sacred. The sculptors who created the masterpieces within the Elephanta caves didn't just carve into blank rock, they worked with the natural formation of the caves. The layout of the main cave temple, with its central shrine and surrounding galleries, is integrated into the existing rock structure. The pillars and walls are carved directly from the living rock of the cave. This blend of natural formation and human artistry creates a powerful spiritual environment. The cave provides the initial sacred space, a natural embrace of the earth, and the sculptures amplify that sacredness, transforming the rock into representations of the divine. The very act of carving these figures out of the mountain itself could be seen as a way of revealing the divine presence already inherent in the natural world. The sheer scale of the carvings, particularly the monumental Trimurti, is enhanced by being located within the confines of the cave. The figures seem to emerge directly from the earth, emphasizing the power and immanence of the deity. The Elephanta caves stand as a remarkable example of how natural spaces can first inspire a sense of the sacred, and then how human artistic and religious expression can be layered onto that natural foundation to create a profoundly powerful spiritual site. Stepping out of the carved stone sanctuaries of Elephanta, we move to a landscape that presents a mystery on an entirely different scale, one scattered with thousands of enormous, enigmatic objects, the plain of jars in Laos. Picture this, a vast, grassy plain, rolling hills in the distance, and scattered across it, like giants' forgotten pottery, are thousands of massive stone jars. These aren't small pots, some are over 3 meters tall and weigh many tons. They're carved from solid rock sandstone, granite, even conglomerate, and dotted across hundreds of sites in the Zion-Kong Plateau. Who made them, when, and most importantly, why? These are the questions that make the Plain of Jars one of Southeast Asia's most compelling archaeological mysteries. Archaeological research suggests these jars were likely created in the Iron Age, roughly 500 BC to 500 CE, but their exact purpose remains a subject of intense debate. The most widely accepted theory, supported by excavations that have found human remains, burial goods, and funerary ceramics near or within the jars, points to their use in burial rituals or other mortuary practices. Perhaps the jars were used for secondary burials, where bodies were left exposed to decompose before the bones were placed inside the jar, or maybe they were used for containing cremated remains. Some theories suggest they held offerings or liquids used in burial rites. The sheer effort required to quarry, carve, and transport these massive stone vessels, often kilometers from their source, speaks to their profound importance to the people who created them. This wasn't a casual undertaking. It was a massive, organized endeavor motivated by deep cultural or spiritual beliefs. Imagine an ancient person living in this landscape. Every day they would see these enormous, strange objects scattered across their world. They would have known that creating them required immense effort, suggesting they served a purpose far beyond the ordinary. Their scale alone would be awe-inspiring, hinting at powerful forces or significant events from the past, in a time when understanding of the world was deeply intertwined with the spiritual, unexplained phenomena in the landscape. Like these preposterously large jars of unknown origin, could easily become imbued with spiritual significance. Were they left by giants? Did gods place them there? Were they connected to the spirits of the dead in a fundamental way? Their very presence would have inspired stories, rituals, and a sense of living in a landscape marked by ancient mystery and power. The plain of jars, even in its silence, speaks volumes about how a strange and unexplained natural or semi-natural, carved from natural rock landscape feature can become a focal point of intense cultural and spiritual meaning, a place of both wonder and perhaps a touch of respectful fear. Leaving the mysterious stone jars of Laos, our journey now takes us to a natural wonder on a truly mind-bending scale, the Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia. Imagine stepping onto a place so vast, so flat, it feels like the very curvature of the earth disappears. This isn't just a salt flat, it's the largest on the planet, covering over 10,000 square kilometers. For most of the year, it's a blindingly white expanse of salt crust stretching to the horizon. But during the rainy season, a thin layer of water covers the surface, transforming the Salar into the world's largest natural mirror. Look at images of this phenomenon. The sky reflects perfectly on the surface, blurring the line between the earth beneath your feet and the heavens above. It's an utterly surreal, breathtaking visual effect, making the horizon vanish and creating a sense of infinite space. Standing in the middle of the Salar de Uyuni when it's reflecting the sky, it's hard not to feel a sense of awe and wonder. This isn't an environment that supports much life on its surface. It's stark, immense, and visually disorienting. For indigenous cultures who have inhabited this region for centuries, particularly the Yoruba people, this extraordinary landscape would have been deeply significant. While extensive historical records detailing specific ancient religious practices directly focused on the Salar itself are less common than for mountains or rivers, the sheer uniqueness and scale of this natural phenomenon would certainly have been incorporated into their worldview and spiritual beliefs. Consider the visual effect it creates, the way the earth seems to merge with the sky. This blurring of boundaries between the terrestrial and the celestial could easily be interpreted as a sacred connection point, a place where the physical world met the spiritual or cosmic realms. Perhaps it was seen as a pathway taken by spirits, a mirror reflecting the heavens, or even a manifestation of a creation event. The vastness and emptiness could also inspire a sense of the sublime, of being in the presence of something far larger and more profound than human existence. The difficulty of survival in such a stark environment might have further emphasized its power and the need to respect the forces that shaped it. The Salar de Uyuni, through its sheer scale and its capacity to become a giant mirror, offers a powerful example of how a unique and visually dramatic natural landscape can defy ordinary explanation and become imbued with profound spiritual or cosmic significance, a place where the earth and sky feel intimately connected. Stepping off the surreal mirror of the Sala de Uyuni, we plunge deep into the earth once more, this time into the enchanting darkness of New Zealand to explore the Waitomo glowworm caves. Imagine descending into a subterranean world where silence reigns and the only light comes from thousands of tiny, living organisms creating an ethereal, starry sky underground. For the Maori people, the indigenous inhabitants of New Zealand, caves often held deep spiritual significance. They were considered entrances to the underworld, the realm of the spirits and ancestors. Think about the feeling of entering a cave. It's a transition from the familiar world of light and air to a hidden, mysterious domain within the earth. This natural transition made caves natural candidates for being seen as liminal spaces, thresholds connecting the physical world with the spiritual realm. Waitomo, meaning water cave in Maori, is a system of limestone caves carved out over millions of years by underground streams. While many caves were significant, the Waitomo glowworm caves possess a truly unique feature that elevates their mystery and potential sacredness: the glowworms. These aren't worms at all, but the larvae of a specific type of gnat, Arachnocampa luminosa, found only in New Zealand. They emit a bioluminescent light to attract insect prey. But when you're drifting on a small boat through the dark caverns, looking up at thousands of these tiny blue-green lights clinging to the cave ceiling, it doesn't feel like a biological process. It feels utterly magical, like floating beneath a constellation of stars deep beneath the earth. This natural phenomenon is so striking, so unlike anything experienced on the surface, that it's easy to understand how ancient Maori might have interpreted it through a spiritual lens. While specific ancient myths directly detailing the glowworms as spirits or deities residing in the caves are not widely documented in the same way as some other natural wonders, the caves themselves were certainly recognized as tapu or sacred. They were used for various purposes, including shelter, burial sites, and possibly as places for rituals related to the underworld or ancestor spirits. The presence of the glowworms, illuminating the darkness like countless tiny eyes or stars, would have only amplified the feeling of entering a special, perhaps inhabited, realm. Were these lights seen as the eyes of the ancestors watching from the underworld? Were they spirits guiding the way through the subterranean darkness? The magical, otherworldly appearance of the glowworms perfectly aligns with the concept of caves as entrances to a spiritual dimension, adding a layer of natural wonder to the already potent symbolism of the underworld entry point. This unique intersection of geological formation, biological wonder, and cultural belief makes the Waitomo glowworm caves a powerful example of how even the smallest natural phenomena can contribute to the profound sacredness of a place. Emerging from the subterranean wonders of New Zealand's glowworms, we arrive now in the majestic, soaring landscape of South Africa, the Drakensberg Mountains. Known locally as Ukohlamba, meaning barrier of spears in Zulu due to their dramatic, jagged peaks, this mountain range is not just a breathtaking geological feature. It is a vast, open-air art gallery and a profound spiritual landscape for the ancient San people who inhabited this region for thousands of years. Look at the sheer scale of these mountains, the dramatic cliffs, the hidden valleys, and most importantly for our journey, the countless rock shelters and caves dotted along their flanks. These aren't just natural shelters, they are sacred spaces, etched with the beliefs and spiritual experiences of a people deeply connected to this land. The true treasure of the Drakensberg, and the key to understanding its ancient sacredness, lies in the thousands of rock art sites found within these mountain caves and overhangs. Created by the San people over millennia, these paintings are not mere decorations or historical records. They are windows into a complex and vibrant spiritual world. Imagine entering one of these shelters, the air cool and still, and seeing these vivid images painted on the rock face, eland antelope, a particularly sacred animal to the San, human figures, sometimes composite human-animal beings and abstract patterns. What do these images tell us? Anthropological and archaeological research, guided by the knowledge of contemporary San descendants, suggests that a significant portion of this art depicts the experiences of shamans in trance states, journeys into the spirit world. For the San, the caves themselves were likely considered powerful, liminal places, thresholds between the physical world and the realm of the spirits. Performing rituals within the embrace of the rock shelter, with the mountain looming behind them, would have amplified the spiritual intensity. The rock face itself might have been seen as a veil, a thin barrier between worlds, and the act of painting on it could have been a way of interacting with the spirits within or beyond. The paintings often show figures bleeding from the nose, a common physical manifestation associated with entering a trance state in San belief, and distorted figures that seem to be transforming, perhaps depicting the shaman's spiritual journey or interaction with animal spirits. The eland, being the largest antelope and a source of sustenance, was also highly symbolic, associated with potency and the supernatural realm. The dramatic and often hidden nature of these rock shelter sites is also significant. Many require a trek to reach, often tucked away in secluded valleys or high on mountain slopes. This inherent inaccessibility would have added to their sacredness, making them places set apart from everyday life, suitable for important rituals and spiritual practices. The Drakensberg Mountains, with their immense size and hidden sanctuaries, were not just a backdrop for the San people's lives. They were an active participant in their spiritual existence, a landscape infused with meaning, power, and the presence of the spirit world, beautifully rendered on the rock walls for us to glimpse today. Climbing out of the San's painted rock shelters, we travel across the continent of Africa to its second highest peak, a colossal volcanic massif that dominates the skyline of Kenya, Mount Kenya. Look at this mountain. It's not a single, neat cone like Fuji. Instead, it has a complex, rugged series of peaks, often jagged and snow-capped, with its highest point soaring well over 5,000 meters. For the Kikuyu people, the largest ethnic group in Kenya, and several other tribes in the surrounding region, Mount Kenya is not just a geographical landmark. It is the single most sacred place in their world, believed to be the dwelling place of their supreme creator deity, Ngai. Imagine living in the foothills of this immense mountain, looking up at its often cloud-shrouded summit, and believing that the very source of creation resides there. This profound connection means the mountain is absolutely central to their identity, their prayers, and their understanding of the universe. The Kikuyu worldview often centers on Ngai, who is seen as the ultimate source of life, power, and order. The choice of Mount Kenya as Ngai's home wasn't arbitrary. Its sheer height, the way it reaches into the sky, and its powerful presence in the landscape naturally lent itself to being seen as the abode of the Supreme Being. The mountain's distinct profile, with its highest peaks Bashan and Nelion resembling a seated figure, might have further reinforced this belief, perhaps seen as Ngai's throne or even a physical manifestation. For generations, key rituals and prayers were directed towards Mount Kenya. People would face the mountain, often kneeling when praying, believing that their words would travel directly to Ngai at the summit. Traditional sacrifices and offerings were sometimes made in the foothills or lower slopes, seeking Ngai's blessings for rain, good harvests, fertility, and the well-being of the community. Significantly, the higher reaches of Mount Kenya were traditionally considered extremely sacred and largely off-limits to ordinary people. Access was restricted. Only certain spiritual leaders or elders might venture onto the lower slopes for specific ceremonial purposes. The very summit was considered too holy, the direct dwelling place of Ngai, a realm not meant for casual human intrusion. This deliberate restriction on access underscored the mountain's sacred and set-apart nature, reinforcing its status as a truly divine space. It wasn't a place to be climbed for sport or exploration. It was a place to be revered from a respectful distance. Even today, while climbing the technical peaks is possible, the spiritual significance for the local people encourages a sense of respect, and many traditionalists still view the summit as Ngai's exclusive domain. The enduring sacredness of Mount Kenya for the Kikuyu and other tribes is a powerful testament to how a magnificent natural feature can become the very heart of a people's spiritual beliefs, the literal home of their god. From the towering peak of Mount Kenya and the Sacred Heart of Africa, we now journey to a place of liquid beauty and cascading wonder in Europe, the Plitvice Lakes National Park in Croatia. Imagine stepping into a lush valley where 16 interconnected lakes shimmer with vibrant colors, linked by a series of mesmerizing waterfalls. This isn't just a collection of lakes, it's a geological masterpiece, a process of natural dam building that creates a constantly changing, breathtaking landscape. What makes Plitvice so unique is its travertine formations. Travertine is a type of limestone deposited by the water itself. Over thousands of years, mosses, algae, and bacteria living in the water trap dissolved calcium carbonate, which then hardens, forming natural barriers or dams. These barriers grow and change, constantly altering the flow of the water and creating new waterfalls and cascades. It's a dynamic, living landscape, a testament to the slow, persistent power of water and life working together. The colors of the water here are truly extraordinary. They shift and change depending on the time of day, the amount of sunlight, the minerals in the water, and the organisms living within it, ranging from brilliant turquoise and emerald green to deep azure. This almost magical coloration, combined with the constant sound of falling water and the lush surrounding forest, creates an atmosphere of profound natural beauty. Imagine ancient people living near this area, witnessing this ever-changing spectacle of color and sound. In cultures worldwide, cascading water, springs, and lakes have often been imbued with spiritual significance. Water is life-giving, purifying, and a powerful force of nature. Here at Plitvice, you have water in constant motion, perpetually transforming the landscape. While extensive detailed records of specific ancient religious practices directly tied to the Plitvice Lakes by name are scarce, the region has been inhabited by various groups for millennia, including Illyrian tribes and later Romans. The very concept of water spirits, nymphs, or deities associated with springs and rivers was common throughout ancient Europe. It's highly probable that these incredibly dynamic and visually stunning water features would have been seen as places inhabited by powerful spirits or forces. The constant flow and transformation of the water, the way it carves new paths, deposits new rock, and perpetually moves could have been interpreted as a metaphor for life itself, for change, purification, and the cyclical nature of existence. The vibrant, almost unnatural colors of the lakes would have only added to their mystique, making them seem like places set apart, perhaps portals to another realm or manifestations of divine presence. The very feeling of being in such a place, surrounded by the sound and sight of endless cascading water, naturally inspires a sense of wonder and connection to the powerful forces of the natural world. From the cascading beauty of Croatian lakes, we journey to another landscape defined by striking natural formations, this time deep in the remote Kimberley region of Western Australia, the Bungle Bungle Range, known to the local indigenous people as Pernululu. Imagine seeing this landscape for the first time, not uniform hills or flat plains, but a series of thousands of towering beehive-shaped domes, striped distinctly in orange and black bands. This isn't just a unique geological formation. For the Jija and Limungan people, the traditional custodians of this land, Pernululu is a place of profound spiritual significance, a living landscape woven into their creation stories and cultural identity. The unusual, layered appearance of the Bungle Bungle domes is key to understanding their sacredness. The orange bands are layers of iron-rich rock that have oxidized, while the black bands are areas where moisture supports growth of cyanobacteria. To ancient eyes, this isn't just rock and microbes. It's a landscape that looks sculpted, almost painted by unseen forces. Traditional knowledge of the Jija and Limungan people holds that Pernululu was shaped during the dreaming, the creation period when ancestral beings moved across the land, giving shape to the landscape and laying down the laws and customs that still guide their lives today. These aren't just abstract concepts. Specific features within the Bungle Bungle are linked to the actions of these ancestral beings. Each dome, each gorge, each waterhole holding a story, a spiritual resonance. The striking bands themselves could easily be seen as markings left by these powerful creators, a visible sign of their passage and influence. Respect for the Bungle Bungle landscape is deeply ingrained in the traditional culture. Access to certain areas might be restricted due to their sacred nature, or specific protocols might be followed when entering different parts of the range, reflecting the understanding that this is a place inhabited by powerful spirits and imbued with ancient energy. The traditional custodians possess a vast knowledge of the land, its plants, animals, water sources, and hidden pathways, knowledge that is inextricably linked to the spiritual stories and the belief that the land itself is a living entity. This isn't just environmental knowledge, it's spiritual wisdom. The very existence of these unique, striped domes, so different from anything else in the surrounding area, would have reinforced their sense of Pernululu as a special, set-apart place, a place where the power of the dreaming is particularly palpable. The Bungle Bungle Range stands as a powerful testament to how unique geological formations can be seen not just as natural wonders, but as landscapes deliberately shaped by ancestral beings, holding deep spiritual meaning for the people who have been their guardians for millennia. Moving from the painted domes of Australia, we journey to a place where ancient devotion transformed natural rock into breathtaking sanctuaries, the caves of Ajanta and Ellora in Maharashtra, India. Look at these incredible sites carved directly into the basalt cliffsides, a testament to centuries of profound spiritual commitment. These aren't just man-made structures added to a landscape. They are the landscape itself, hollowed out and sculpted into sacred spaces. Before the elaborate carving began, these were simply natural caves and rock formations, perhaps offering shelter, but more significantly, attracting ascetics and monks who sought solitude and a quiet place for meditation, a retreat from the distractions of the world. The very act of going into the earth, into the silence and darkness of a cave, has long been seen in many spiritual traditions as a metaphor for introspection, for turning inward to find truth and connection. The Ajanta caves, dating primarily from the 2nd century BC to about 480 CE, are renowned for their exquisite Buddhist rock-cut paintings and sculptures. Imagine early Buddhist monks finding these natural caves high in the curve of a horseshoe-shaped gorge. They weren't initially thinking of vast, decorated temples. They were looking for simple viharas or monastic dwelling centers and chaityas or prayer halls. Over centuries, however, subsequent patrons and artists transformed these simple retreats into stunning works of art, depicting the Jataka tales, stories of the Buddha's previous lives, scenes from his life, and various bodhisattvas. The act of carving and painting within the cave walls was an act of devotion itself, turning a natural space into a visual narrative of the Buddhist path to enlightenment. Entering these painted caves feels like stepping into another dimension, a world of vibrant color and spiritual storytelling contained within the earth's embrace. Just a short distance away are the Ellora Caves, a unique complex that showcases 3 different religious traditions side by side: Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism, carved between the 6th and 10th centuries CE. This is remarkable because it reflects a period of relative religious harmony and exchange. Here you find Buddhist monasteries and temples, elaborate Hindu shrines dedicated to deities like Shiva, Vishnu, and Durga, and Jain temples, all carved from the same cliff face. The most astonishing achievement at Ellora is the Kailasa temple, dedicated to Shiva. It wasn't built by adding stones, it was excavated from the top down out of a single, massive piece of rock, essentially sculpting a multi-story temple and courtyard from the mountain itself. This monumental undertaking wasn't just about creating a beautiful structure, it was about bringing the sacred mountain of Kailash, Shiva's mythological home, to life on earth, a profound act of devotion carved into the natural rock. The process of transforming these natural caves into elaborate, decorated sanctuaries was an arduous and long-term commitment, requiring generations of skilled artisans, monks, and patrons. It involved excavating vast amounts of rock using simple tools, then meticulously carving pillars, statues, and intricate reliefs, and finally applying plaster and vibrant pigments for the paintings. This wasn't just construction, it was an act of profound spiritual energy directed at the earth itself, shaping its very substance into forms that reflected divine beings and spiritual narratives. The feeling of being inside these rock-cut sanctuaries is unlike being in a built temple. You are literally within the mountain, surrounded by art that emerges from the stone, creating a powerful sense of being in a sacred, enclosed world, a spiritual heart carved out of the natural rock. Leaving the carved temples of India, we return to the wild Atlantic edge of Europe, this time to the west coast of Ireland and the absolutely breathtaking Cliffs of Moher. Look at these sheer cliffs, rising dramatically over 200 meters straight up from the churning waters of the Atlantic Ocean, stretching for about 14 kilometers along the coastline. This isn't just a view, it's an experience of raw, untamed nature on a grand scale, standing on the edge of the land where the earth meets the powerful, unpredictable sea. For the ancient Celtic peoples of Ireland, this dramatic and imposing landmark would have unquestionably held deep spiritual and mythological significance. Think about the psychological impact of standing on these cliffs thousands of years ago. Below you, the vast, often turbulent ocean stretches out endlessly. The wind whips around you, carrying the spray of the waves crashing far below. The sheer drop is dizzying. In a worldview where nature was alive with spirits and where the sea was a powerful, often dangerous entity populated by deities and mythical creatures, a place like the Cliffs of Moher would naturally be seen as a boundary, a threshold between the familiar world and the mysterious, powerful realm of the sea and the otherworld. It's a place that inspires both awe and perhaps a healthy dose of fear, a feeling of being very small in the face of immense natural power. While concrete archaeological evidence of specific religious structures on the very edge of the cliffs from the deepest antiquity is limited, Irish folklore and mythology are rich with stories connected to dramatic coastal landscapes and the sea. It's easy to imagine these cliffs being associated with powerful sea deities or legendary figures. One well-known local legend connected to the Cliffs of Moher involves Aileen's Tower, a round stone tower standing on a nearby headland, named after a mythical woman who drowned herself in the sea below. While this particular story might be relatively more recent, the underlying theme of the cliffs being a place linked to tragic or significant events, often involving the turbulent sea, likely echoes older beliefs about the power and danger inherent in this landscape. The cliffs could have been seen as a place where the barrier between this world and the realm beneath the waves was thin, a place where offerings might be made to appease the sea gods or seek safe passage for those who ventured onto the water. Their immense height and forbidding nature would have reinforced their status as a powerful, potentially dangerous, and therefore sacred landmark. Leaving the dramatic ocean edge of the Cliffs of Moher, we journey across the vast Indian Ocean to the unique island of Madagascar, and a landscape that looks like something from another planet, the Tsingy de Bimaraha. Imagine a vast area covered in a forest of razor-sharp, grey limestone needles, some reaching heights of 50 meters. Tsingy itself is a Malagasy word that roughly translates to where one cannot walk barefoot, and for good reason. This isn't a place you can easily stroll through. It's a labyrinth of incredibly sharp, eroded pinnacles, deep canyons, and hidden caves. It's an utterly bewildering and beautiful sight, created over millions of years as acidic rainwater dissolved the limestone, carving this incredibly intricate and dangerous terrain. For the Malagasy people who have long lived in the regions bordering the Tsingy, this isn't just a geological curiosity. It's a place steeped in tradition, mystery, and a deep sense of respect, even awe. While specific, widespread ancient myths directly explaining the formation of the Tsingy as a divine act might not be as prominent as in some cultures, the very nature of this landscape, its inaccessibility, its danger, its otherworldly appearance naturally lends itself to being seen as extraordinary and potentially sacred. Think about the difficulty of traversing this terrain. For practical purposes, it's incredibly challenging, requiring specialized skills and caution. This physical barrier could easily translate into a spiritual one. Places that are difficult or dangerous for ordinary humans to access are often perceived in ancient cultures as being reserved for something else, perhaps spirits, powerful ancestors, or even deities. The Tsingy, with its almost impenetrable nature, fits this perfectly, a natural fortress that keeps the mundane world out. Despite the challenging terrain, the Tsingy supports incredible biodiversity, with many species uniquely adapted to live within its rocky maze. Unique plants cling to the sides of the pinnacles, and specialized animals navigate the canyons and crevices. This rich, unique life, thriving in such a seemingly inhospitable environment, would only add to the sense of wonder surrounding the Tsingy. It feels like a secret world hidden away, and the life within it might have been seen as having its own special connection to the spiritual realm. Navigating the Tsingy requires a deep understanding of the landscape, its hidden paths, and its dangers, knowledge often held by indigenous peoples, reinforcing their unique connection to this sacred, challenging environment. The Tsingy de Bimaraha stands as a powerful example of how a landscape defined by its extreme, almost alien geology and its inaccessibility can become a place of deep spiritual reverence and be seen as a realm set apart perhaps for the divine. From the razor-sharp towers of the Tsingy, we shift our focus to a natural wonder that looks like liquid rock frozen in time. The Wave, located in the Coyote Buttes North area of Arizona in the United States. Look at images of this place. It's an utterly stunning, almost unbelievable formation of swirling, undulating sandstone, appearing like a giant wave captured mid-crest. Its vibrant layers of red, pink, yellow, and white rock seem to flow seamlessly into each other, creating a visually hypnotic effect. While the Wave has gained global recognition relatively recently through photography, the landscape it's a part of, the vast and beautiful Colorado Plateau, has been home to indigenous peoples for thousands of years, including the Navajo and Paiute tribes. While specific ancient myths or documented religious practices directly centered on the precise formation known as the Wave are not widely known or recorded in the same way as for something like Mount Everest or the Ganges, that doesn't mean this landscape lacked spiritual significance to the people who lived here. Indigenous cultures in the American Southwest have a deep spiritual connection to the land itself. The dramatic canyons, mesas, and unusual rock formations are often seen as embodying powerful forces, having been shaped by the actions of ancestral beings or spirits during the creation time. The very earth is alive with meaning. Consider the sheer, unique beauty of the Wave, its fluid, almost unnatural appearance. To ancient eyes, encountering such a place would undoubtedly inspire awe and suggest that powerful forces were at work here, creating something extraordinary. Landscapes that stand out, that are strikingly different from their surroundings, are often exactly the kind of places that become imbued with spiritual meaning in ancient belief systems. The delicate nature of the Wave's formation, easily damaged by excessive foot traffic, has led to strict limitations on visitor access today. Only a small number of permits are issued daily, either through a lottery system or a difficult walk-in process. This restricted access, while necessary for preservation in the modern era, ironically mirrors a concept often found in the sacred sites of ancient cultures, that places of profound spiritual power are not always open to everyone. Sometimes difficult journeys or restricted access were seen as ways to maintain the sanctity of a place, ensuring that only those with true reverence or purpose could enter. While the modern restrictions are for conservation, the notion of a beautiful, powerful, and somewhat inaccessible natural spot holding special significance feels intuitively connected to the way many ancient cultures viewed their most sacred natural wonders. The wave, with its breathtaking beauty and unique form, stands as a compelling modern example of a natural landscape that, whether through documented history or simply by its appearance, seems inherently worthy of being viewed as a place of wonder and deep respect. Moving from the vibrant swirls of the wave, we now journey to a valley of breathtaking granite giants in California, Yosemite National Park. Look up. In this place you are surrounded by sheer cliffs and monumental rock formations rising thousands of feet into the sky. While Yosemite is celebrated globally for its stunning beauty, for the Awanich people, the indigenous inhabitants of this valley, these towering granite domes, particularly iconic peaks like El Capitan and Half Dome, are not just geological marvels, they are living entities deeply sacred, imbued with spiritual power and presence. Imagine living your life with these colossal rock faces as your constant companions, believing they are inhabited by powerful spirits or beings. For the Awanichi, these prominent peaks are woven into their origin stories, legends, and spiritual practices. El Capitan, known to them as Tutakanula, is a male figure of great importance in their mythology. Half Dome, with its distinctive sheared face, is called Tisaak and is associated with a woman in their stories, often linked to a tragic or powerful event. These aren't just names assigned to rocks, they are personal names, acknowledging these formations as individuals with their own histories and significance within their cultural narratives. The immense scale and grandeur of El Capitan and Half Dome, rising almost vertically for thousands of feet, command attention and naturally inspire awe. To the Awanichi, this grandeur was a clear indication of the powerful spirits residing within or associated with these places. When you stand at the base of El Capitan, feeling utterly dwarfed by its size, it's easy to feel the power emanating from the rock itself, a feeling that ancient cultures would readily interpret as spiritual energy. Respect for these natural landmarks was, and for many still is, paramount. Approaching them, passing by them, or venturing onto their slopes would have been done with reverence and perhaps specific prayers or offerings made to the spirits of the rock. Stories about the consequences of disrespecting these sacred places would have been passed down through generations, reinforcing the need for harmonious interaction with the powerful beings of the landscape. These geological formations of such magnitude were seen as embodying the very forces of nature, the strength of the earth, the steadfastness of stone, the connection to the sky. They were not passive backdrops but active participants in the life of the valley and its people, sources of protection, lessons, and spiritual connection. The enduring stories and deep respect for El Capitan and Half Dome among the Awanichi underscore how natural grandeur, particularly in dramatic rock formations, can be seen as the physical manifestation of powerful natural forces or spirits, making the landscape itself profoundly sacred. Departing the solid stone of Yosemite's giants, we find ourselves in a landscape that offers a truly baffling enigma, the grasslands of Namibia, home to the perplexing fairy circles. Imagine vast, arid plains stretching to the horizon, dotted not with trees or rocks, but with thousands upon thousands of perfectly circular patches of bare earth, ranging in size from a few meters to over 15 meters in diameter, each surrounded by a ring of taller grass. What creates these precise, bare circles? They appear, persist for decades, and then mysteriously vanish. This isn't a dramatic mountain or a thundering waterfall. It's a quiet, subtle mystery on a massive scale, and it has puzzled scientists and inspired local legends for generations. For the Himba people, who have lived in this region for centuries and whose lives are deeply connected to the land, the fairy circles are far more than an unexplained natural phenomenon. Their traditional beliefs about the circles are intertwined with the spiritual realm and ancient power. Some Himba legends attribute the circles to the footprint of the gods, seeing them as the divine marks left behind by creator deities who once walked the land. Others speak of the circles being caused by the breathing of a giant serpent god living beneath the earth, the bare patches being where its breath escapes. These stories reflect a common human tendency to explain the inexplicable in nature through the actions of powerful, unseen forces. When faced with something so unusual and widespread that lacks an obvious physical cause, attributing it to spirits, gods, or mythical beings becomes a natural way to understand and bring meaning to the mystery. While local legends offer spiritual explanations, modern science has proposed several theories to account for the fairy circles. One long-standing hypothesis suggested they were caused by subterranean termite activity, with the termites consuming vegetation in a circular pattern. Another theory posits that the circles are the result of plants competing for scarce water resources in the arid environment. In this model, the plants at the edge of the circle use up all the water, leaving the central area bare, with the pattern forming a perfectly spaced network to maximize water uptake. More recent research, however, has suggested a combination of these factors, or perhaps even entirely new explanations. Despite decades of study, scientists still don't have a definitive, universally accepted answer for what creates and sustains these peculiar shapes across the landscape. This scientific uncertainty only adds to the enigmatic aura of the fairy circles. The very mystery of the fairy circles, their perfect form and unexplained origin, inspires not just scientific curiosity but also a sense of wonder. They are a natural riddle written on the landscape, and for ancient cultures, such riddles often led to reverence, seeing in them a demonstration of forces beyond human comprehension, forces that could only be spiritual or divine in nature. From the mysterious circles patterned across the African plains, we transport ourselves now to a landscape in China that seems to defy gravity, a place that looks less like Earth and more like a fantastical realm, the Zhangjiajie National Forest Park in the Hunan province. Gaze upon this scene, thousands of impossibly tall, slender sandstone pillars rising dramatically from the misty valleys, often shrouded in clouds. This isn't a solid mountain range. It's a forest of individual, towering rock columns that seem to float in an ethereal haze. For centuries, this unique geological wonder has profoundly inspired Chinese culture, particularly its landscape painting and philosophical thought. Imagine an ancient Chinese artist encountering this place. Accustomed to painting rolling hills and familiar peaks, they would have been captivated and challenged by these vertical giants. The sheer verticality, the way the mists swirl around the columns, making them appear like islands in the sky, perfectly captures the essence of traditional Chinese landscape painting, which often sought to depict not just the physical appearance of mountains, but their inherent energy and spiritual aura. The misty, dreamlike quality of Zhangjiajie echoes the aesthetic ideals of classical Chinese art and poetry, where mountains were seen as places of tranquility, mystery, and a connection to something larger than the mundane world. In Chinese belief systems, mountains have long held immense spiritual significance. They are considered sacred spaces, often seen as the abodes of immortals, legendary beings who have achieved spiritual enlightenment and live forever, sometimes depicted as dwelling in remote, misty mountain peaks. Mountains were also vital sites for spiritual cultivation, places where hermits, monks, and Taoist practitioners would retreat to meditate, study ancient texts, and seek harmony with nature and the cosmos. The challenging terrain and isolation offered by these mountains provided the perfect environment for introspection and spiritual growth. The distinct geological formations of Zhangjiajie, so unlike typical mountains, might have been seen as particularly auspicious or powerful, perhaps sculpted by divine hands or specifically chosen as homes for more extraordinary spiritual beings. The dramatic and unusual appearance of these sandstone pillars could easily be interpreted as reflecting a deeper cosmic order. The way they rise straight up, connecting the earth below with the heavens above, might symbolize the link between these realms. The sheer variety in their shapes and sizes, yet their consistent verticality, could suggest an underlying pattern or design in the universe. Furthermore, it's plausible that individual pillars or groups of pillars were believed to be inhabited by spirits, each with its own character and influence. The constantly changing play of light and shadow, the way the mist transforms the view from one moment to the next, would only enhance the feeling that this landscape is alive, dynamic, and imbued with unseen forces. Zhangjiajie, with its unparalleled vertical landscape and ethereal beauty, offers a vivid illustration of how extraordinary natural formations can shape a culture's artistic expression, philosophical ideas, and fundamental beliefs about the spiritual realm. From the vertical world of Zhangjiajie, we dive back underground, but this time it's not the glowworms or the carved temples that draw us, but the vibrant echoes of our ancient past, the caves of Lascaux in southwestern France. Imagine stepping back over 17,000 years to a time when powerful Ice Age animals roamed the European landscape. Just like Altamira, which we discussed earlier, the significance of Lascaux lies not just in the extraordinary art found within, but in the natural setting of the cave itself. Think about entering these dark, silent chambers, venturing deep below the surface of the earth. Caves naturally create a sense of separation, a threshold between the familiar world of light and air and a mysterious, hidden realm. The cool, constant temperature, the echoing sounds, the feeling of being enclosed within the Earth's embrace all contribute to an atmosphere that feels distinct, powerful, and ripe for spiritual significance. The paintings in Lascaux are among the most famous and breathtaking examples of Upper Paleolithic art. The Hall of the Bulls, particularly, is astounding in its scale and the energy of its depictions. You see magnificent aurochs, horses, deer, and other animals rendered with incredible skill, using natural pigments of red, yellow, black, and brown. These aren't rough sketches, they are sophisticated, dynamic images that convey movement and power. The sheer artistry involved strongly suggests these were created by skilled individuals and served a purpose far beyond simple decoration. Like Altamira, the theories about the meaning behind these paintings are varied and debated, but many point towards a ritualistic or spiritual purpose. Why create such masterpieces in the deep, dark confines of a cave, far from the entrance where they would have been seen only by the light of flickering animal fat lamps? The very act of entering the earth, going into the darkness, might have been seen as a journey into the spirit world itself. The cave walls could have been viewed as the veil between the physical and spiritual realms, and the act of painting on them a way of communicating with, depicting, or even influencing the spirits associated with the animals. Were these paintings part of hunting rituals intended to bring success in the hunt by capturing the spirit of the animal? Were they part of initiation ceremonies for young people entering adulthood, exposing them to the spiritual knowledge and power associated with the cave and its art? Perhaps they were depictions from shamanic trance journeys, visions of the spirit world brought back and rendered on the rock face. The unique acoustics of some cave chambers could have been used for chanting or drumming during ceremonies, enhancing the immersive, transformative atmosphere. The impact of encountering such vibrant, ancient art in situ, in its original, natural context, is profound. You are standing in the exact spot where these artists stood, feeling the same air, surrounded by the images they created in the flickering light. It creates a tangible connection across millennia, offering a powerful glimpse into the complex inner lives and spiritual world of our ancient ancestors, who saw the earth itself as a sacred canvas and the act of creating within it as a spiritual endeavor. Leaving the ancient art of the French caves, we venture across the globe once more to the rugged, eucalyptus-scented landscape of Australia, to the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. Gaze out over the vast valleys here, filled with a hazy, blue-tinged mist rising from the eucalyptus forests. The oil from the trees vaporizes and refracts light, creating the distinctive color. Dominating this view is a particularly striking rock formation, the Three Sisters. These aren't just three sandstone peaks, they are a powerful natural landmark, holding deep significance for the Aboriginal people of the Blue Mountains region, particularly the Gundungurra and Darug nations. For millennia, these towering rocks have been woven into their Dreamtime stories, the ancient narratives that explain the creation of the world, the landscape, and the laws of life. For Indigenous Australians, every part of the landscape has a story, a history, and a spiritual connection, and the Three Sisters are a prime example. The most widely shared Dreamtime story of the Three Sisters tells of three beautiful sisters from the Katoomba tribe Mini, Wimla, and Gunnedu. They fell in love with three brothers from a neighboring tribe, but tribal law forbade their marriage. A great battle ensued, and to protect the sisters from harm, a wise elder with powerful magic turned them into stone pillars. Tragically, the elder was killed in the battle, and no one else had the power to turn the sisters back. And so they stand there to this day, a permanent part of the landscape, a reminder of a time long past and the consequences of breaking traditional law. This story isn't just a quaint tale, it's an integral part of the cultural heritage and spiritual beliefs of the local Aboriginal people. The distinctive appearance of the Three Sisters formation reinforces its central role in this myth. The three pillars stand side by side, clearly separate yet connected to the main cliff face, easily personified as three individuals watching over the valley. The sheer scale of them, rising dramatically from the valley floor, gives them a powerful presence, making it easy to believe they are more than just rock. Geological features like mountains, rivers, rock formations, and even specific trees are often central characters or significant locations in Indigenous creation stories across Australia and around the world. They are seen as tangible evidence of the actions of ancestral beings, physical manifestations of the dreaming. These landforms are not static or inanimate. They are alive with the energy and spirit of those who created them, holding deep spiritual meaning and connection for the descendants of those ancestors. The Three Sisters stand as a poignant reminder of how specific natural landmarks can be so deeply intertwined with a culture's history, identity, and fundamental spiritual beliefs. From the layered stories of Australian rock formations, we return to the towering peaks of the Andes, this time focusing on a region that was the agricultural heartland of the vast Inca Empire, the sacred valley of the Incas in Peru. This isn't just a picturesque valley, it's a deeply spiritual landscape defined by the winding course of the Urubamba River and the dramatic mountains that frame it. For the Inca civilization, the Urubamba River, known to them as the Vilcanota, was far more than just a source of water. It was a sacred entity, a river god, whose flow mirrored the celestial river of the Milky Way in their sky. Imagine looking up at the stars and seeing the path of the Milky Way mirrored in the river, flowing through your valley, a tangible connection between the heavens and the earth right in front of you. The Incas' reverence for the natural world was embodied in their concept of Pachamama, or Mother Earth. Pachamama wasn't just a metaphorical idea. She was a powerful, nurturing deity, the source of life, fertility, and abundance. Every act of planting, harvesting, or working the land was an interaction with Pachamama, requiring respect, offerings, and rituals to maintain balance and ensure her continued generosity. The sacred valley, with its incredibly fertile soil, nurtured by the Vilcanota River and situated at an ideal altitude for cultivating essential crops like maize, was seen as a particularly blessed part of her body, a place where her life-giving energy was especially strong. Protecting and caring for this valley and its resources was not just practical, it was a profound spiritual duty. Adding to the spiritual power of the valley were the mountains themselves, the towering peaks that enclosed it. As we discussed earlier, mountains in the Andes were considered apus, powerful spirits or deities. The specific apus surrounding the sacred valley were particularly important to the Inca, seen as protectors of the valley, controllers of the weather that brought life-giving rain, and intermediaries with the higher spiritual realms. Their dramatic presence would have been a constant reminder of the powerful forces watching over the valley. The Inca built terraces up the mountainsides, not just for agriculture, but also as a way of integrating their cultivation with the sacred landscape, mirroring the contours of the earth and showing respect for the mountain spirits. The impressive sites within the valley, like Pisac, Ollantaytambo, and of course Machu Picchu high above the valley, are strategically located within this dramatic, sacred landscape, their placement chosen to align with significant peaks and celestial events, further weaving together the natural, human, and spiritual worlds. The sacred valley, with its life-giving river, fertile earth, and protective mountain spirits, stands as a powerful example of a civilization whose prosperity was inextricably linked to their profound spiritual connection with the natural world around them. Moving from the fertile valleys of Peru, we journey to a landscape in southern Italy that offers a truly remarkable glimpse into how humans have lived with the earth for millennia, the caves of Matera. Look at this extraordinary city built into the side of a ravine, where houses aren't just built on the ground but carved into the natural rock face. The ancient districts of Matera, known as the Sassi, are not archaeological ruins in the traditional sense. They are a living testament to continuous human habitation stretching back possibly 7,000 years, making it one of the oldest continually inhabited settlements in the world structured around natural caves. Imagine the earliest people arriving in this region. They found natural openings in the soft tufa rock of the ravine caves, rock shelters, and overhangs. These weren't just convenient places to hide or seek temporary shelter. They were ready-made homes offering protection from the elements and a stable environment. The very act of living within the earth, nestled inside its cavities, must have felt profoundly different from living on the open plains or in man-made structures above ground. This intimate connection with the rock, the feeling of being embraced by the land, likely fostered a deep sense of belonging and perhaps even reverence for the earth itself. Over thousands of years, these simple natural caves were adapted and expanded by generations of inhabitants. They weren't just used as basic shelters. People began to carve out more space, creating additional rooms, storage areas, and eventually complex multi-level dwellings, often with facades built onto the cave entrances. The Sassi became a fascinating blend of natural and man-made architecture, where the Earth's structure was the foundation and framework for human life. What's even more remarkable is how this natural cave environment became sacred space. Numerous rock-cut churches, some dating back to the early medieval period, were carved directly into the cave walls, their interiors frescoed with religious art. These aren't grand cathedrals, they are humble, intimate spaces of worship, demonstrating how even the deepest forms of spiritual expression were integrated into the natural cavities of the earth. The landscape of the Sassi itself is unique and visually striking. Houses are stacked upon houses, with the roofs of one level often serving as streets for the level above, all integrated into the natural contours of the ravine. Walking through the narrow alleys and stairways is like traversing a living history book, where every turn reveals another cave dwelling or rock-cut church. This environment, where the boundaries between inside and outside, between natural and built, are blurred, highlights a fundamental human relationship with the earth that is often lost in modern urban life. Living in such close proximity to the rock, relying on its natural insulation for warmth in winter and coolness in summer, sharing space with the earth's creatures that might also seek refuge in the caves, all of this would have created a unique worldview, one where nature wasn't something separate to be controlled, but an integral part of human existence, a source of both shelter and spirit connection. Matera stands as a powerful, living example of how natural caves can serve as not just the earliest homes, but also the enduring heart of a community's life and its spiritual expression. Leaving the ancient rock homes of Matera, we travel north across Europe once more, to the edge of the known world in the wild Atlantic Ocean, the island of Skellig Michael off the southwest coast of Ireland. Gaze upon this incredibly steep, jagged rock rising dramatically from the turbulent sea. It looks impossibly remote, exposed to the full fury of the Atlantic storms. And yet, over 1,000 years ago, a small group of early Christian monks chose this unbelievably difficult place to build a monastery. Think about that choice, not a sheltered valley, not an easily accessible hill, but a remote, windswept and physically demanding island. Why would devout individuals seek out such an extreme environment for their spiritual practice? The answer lies in the very isolation and natural features of Skellig Michael. This wasn't a punishment, it was a deliberate choice. For these early Christian ascetics, the world was full of distractions, temptations, and sin. To truly devote oneself to God, they sought places of extreme solitude and hardship, places where the focus was solely on prayer, contemplation, and survival through divine grace. Skellig Michael, nearly 12 kilometers from the mainland, with its incredibly steep cliffs and constant exposure to the harsh Atlantic weather, offered precisely that kind of environment. Every aspect of life here was a challenge: getting to the island, building shelter on its precipitous slopes, finding fresh water, growing food, or relying on limited supplies, and simply enduring the cold and constant wind. The surviving monastery, a UNESCO World Heritage Site today, is a testament to their remarkable dedication and ingenuity. Built between the 6th and 8th centuries, it consists of 6 corbelled, beehive-shaped huts made of intricately stacked stone with no mortar, 2 oratories, prayer houses, and a cemetery, all perched precariously on ledges high above the crashing waves. Reaching the monastery requires ascending over 600 uneven, ancient stone steps carved into the cliff face, a climb that is itself a physical and spiritual test. The rugged beauty of the island, its dramatic cliffs plunging into the sea, the calls of seabirds echoing around them, the powerful presence of the ocean, all would have served as constant reminders of the grandeur and raw power of creation, fostering a sense of awe and humility before God. Life on Skellig Michael was a continuous act of spiritual rigor. The harsh natural environment became a tool for spiritual discipline. The cold was endured, the meager food was accepted, and the physical hardship of simply existing here served as a form of penance and a way to focus the mind entirely on the divine. There were no worldly comforts to distract them, only the sea, the sky, the rock, and their faith. The isolation meant less interaction with the outside world, reducing the pull of secular concerns and allowing for uninterrupted prayer and meditation. Skellig Michael stands as a powerful example of how challenging, even hostile, natural environments can become profoundly sacred spaces for those seeking a path of extreme devotion, where the very difficulty of the landscape is seen as conducive to spiritual growth and a closer connection to the divine. Leaving the rugged, wind-swept island of Skellig Michael, we journey back to the European mainland, specifically to the volatile volcanic landscapes of southern Italy, near the bustling city of Naples. Here lies a place that, even today, feels like peering into the Earth's restless soul, the Plain of Sighs, or Solfatara in Italian, part of the larger Campi Flegrei volcanic area. Imagine this scene. The ground is warm, even hot in places. Plumes of steam rise from numerous vents. The air carries the distinct, pungent smell of sulfur, and pools of grey mud bubble and gurgle ominously. It's a landscape that feels alive, breathing, and profoundly powerful. For the ancient Romans and other peoples who lived in this region for millennia, this wasn't just a geological curiosity. It was a place deeply connected to their beliefs about the underworld and the divine forces at play beneath the surface of the earth. Areas with significant geothermal activity, like Solfatara, where the earth visibly steams, hisses, and bubbles, were often interpreted by ancient cultures as entrances to the underworld. The sulfurous fumes, the unnatural heat rising from the ground, the unsettling sounds of gurgling mud, all these phenomena could easily be perceived as signs that the boundary between the world of the living and the realm of the dead was thin, that this was a place where spirits resided or where deities of the underworld held sway. In Roman mythology, the god Vulcan, the god of fire and metallurgy, had his forge in a volcano, and places demonstrating the Earth's fiery power were naturally associated with him and the chthonic or underworld deities. The sighs of Solfatara could easily have been heard and interpreted as the sounds of souls or spirits within the earth. The ancient Romans were keenly aware of the volcanic nature of their world, living in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, which famously erupted in 79 CE, burying Pompeii and Herculaneum. This constant awareness of the Earth's potential for sudden, violent eruption would have only deepened their reverence and fear of these geothermal areas. Places like Solfatara, though less explosively violent than a full eruption, were visible, tangible demonstrations of the same powerful, unpredictable forces at work underground. They served as a constant, eerie reminder that the Earth was not simply solid ground, but a dynamic entity with fiery depths. Rituals and offerings were likely performed at or near such sites, aimed at appeasing the underworld deities or seeking protection from the Earth's volatile power. It was a way of acknowledging and attempting to interact with the powerful, unseen forces that manifested so visibly in the steaming ground and bubbling mud. The Plain of Sighs, with its palpable sense of the earth breathing and sighing, stands as a compelling example of how the powerful, sometimes unsettling, processes of volcanic activity could be interpreted as direct evidence of divine or infernal power, making the landscape itself a threshold to another realm. Stepping away from the steamy earth of Solfatara, we travel across the Atlantic once more to a landscape in Arizona that puts a fascinating twist on our theme, the Petrified Forest National Park. Now, these aren't living trees like the redwoods. These are ancient, fossilized logs scattered across a vast, arid plain, turned entirely to stone over millions of years. Imagine walking through a desert and seeing giant logs lying everywhere, but when you touch them, they are solid rock, shimmering with crystals of quartz, amethyst, and citrine. This striking landscape, filled with what looks like the remnants of a forest from another time, holds a quiet power and likely inspired deep wonder in the indigenous peoples who first encountered it. For the Navajo, Pueblo, and other Native American tribes with historical ties to this region, these ancient stones held significance, though perhaps not in the same way a living mountain or river might. The petrified forest is a testament to deep time, to geological processes that unfold over timescales almost impossible for humans to grasp. In indigenous belief systems that often see the earth as a living entity with a long history, the presence of these stone trees would have been interpreted not just as scientific fact, but as a sign of the land's ancient past, perhaps connected to creation stories or the presence of powerful old spirits. Some oral traditions may have woven these stone logs into narratives of giants, ancient beings who felled these trees, or transformative events that reshaped the earth. The very process of wood turning into stone, the organic becoming mineral, the temporary becoming permanent over unimaginable stretches of time, could easily be seen as a powerful, spiritual metamorphosis orchestrated by the earth itself. It's a demonstration of the earth's capacity for profound, slow change. The visual appearance of the petrified wood is truly remarkable. The logs are often broken into segments, lying scattered on the ground like fallen pillars. Their surfaces, where the process of petrification has replaced the original wood cells with minerals, are often incredibly colorful, showcasing vibrant reds, blues, purples, and yellows from various mineral impurities. This transformation from organic life to sparkling stone is a visible miracle of nature, a silent record of a past world. These aren't just rocks, they are fossilized echoes of a landscape that existed millions of years ago, reminding us of the Earth's immense age and its capacity for incredible change. Feeling the hard, cold surface of a petrified log, seeing the crystalline structure where wood grain once was, standing in a landscape that was once a lush forest near the edge of an ancient sea, it connects you to the Earth's deep history and its ongoing, powerful transformations. The petrified forest is a natural wonder that speaks not of life's fleeting nature, but of stone's enduring memory. Leaving the ancient stone trees of Arizona, our journey takes us back to Europe, to a region where the very earth is riddled with vast, mysterious cavities. Slovenia, home to the incredible karst cave systems of Postojna and Skokje. Imagine descending into a world of perpetual darkness, where colossal chambers open before you, adorned with shimmering stalactites hanging like icicles and massive stalagmites rising from the floor like silent sentinels. These aren't just holes in the ground, they are immense, intricate underground worlds carved by water over millions of years, and for the ancient cultures who lived near them, they held profound spiritual significance, seen as dwelling places of spirits and pathways to the underworld. Think about the sheer scale of these places. Postojna Cave, one of the largest karst cave systems in the world, stretches for over 24 kilometers, including a section traversable by an underground train. Skokje Caves, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is equally breathtaking, featuring one of the largest known underground canyons on Earth, carved by a powerful underground river. The constant drip of water, the echoing sounds in the vast chambers, the complete absence of natural light, and the strange, often beautiful formations of the karst all contribute to an atmosphere that feels utterly different, a world set apart from the surface. Humans have a primal fascination with what lies beneath, and these types of extensive cave systems would have amplified that curiosity and awe tenfold. For the ancient peoples of this region, before scientific understanding explained the geological processes, the mystery of where these vast underground passages led and what inhabited them would have been fertile ground for spiritual beliefs. Caves, particularly those with rivers flowing into or out of them, were often seen as portals to the underworld, the realm of the dead, or the dwelling place of chthonic deities, gods or spirits associated with the earth and the subterranean world. The sounds of underground rivers might have been interpreted as the voices of spirits or the flow of life and death. The strange shapes of stalactites and stalagmites could be seen as frozen figures, perhaps spirits or mythical creatures turned to stone. Fear and reverence would likely have been intertwined in their perception of these places. Entering such a cave wouldn't have been taken lightly. It would have been a journey into a powerful, potentially dangerous realm, requiring respect and possibly rituals to appease the spirits within. The very act of venturing into the deep earth was a symbolic descent into the mysteries of existence, a connection to the hidden layers of the world and the spiritual forces believed to reside there. These vast cave systems offered a tangible, awe-inspiring landscape that perfectly mirrored the ancient concept of a complex, mysterious underworld, a place of power and transition. We've journeyed across continents and through millennia, exploring just a fraction of the incredible natural wonders that ancient cultures held sacred. From the towering peaks believed to house the gods to the life-giving rivers seen as divine mothers, from the mysterious depths of caves viewed as gateways to the underworld to the utterly unique geological formations that sparked myths and legends, it becomes overwhelmingly clear the reverence for nature was not limited to one place or one time. It was a universal human impulse, a fundamental way our ancestors connected with the divine and made sense of their world. These mountains, rivers, caves, and landscapes weren't just backdrops to life. They were the original temples, the places where the veil between the everyday and the sacred felt thinnest, shaping early belief systems, cultural practices, and our very understanding of the cosmos. They were the first, most powerful demonstrations of forces larger than ourselves, inspiring awe, demanding respect, and becoming the focal points of devotion. As we navigate our modern world, often disconnected from the immediate rhythms and power of nature, perhaps there's a profound lesson to be learned from these ancient perspectives. How do we see the natural world around us today? Can we, like our ancestors, find moments of sacredness and wonder in a majestic tree, a flowing river, a dramatic cliff face, or the quiet mystery of a cave? Let the stories of these 50 wonders encourage us to look at nature with fresh eyes, to appreciate the deep connections that previous generations felt, and perhaps to find a renewed sense of awe in the incredible planet we inhabit. If you found this journey through ancient sacred landscapes as fascinating as I did, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel for more explorations into history's mysteries. And please share your thoughts in the comments below. What was your favorite natural wonder from this list? Or do you know of other natural places that were worshipped in the ancient world? Let's continue.